Chapter 319. There were also beasts in the immortal martial continent, but their intelligence was much higher than those on Earth. On Earth, a cat's intelligence was equivalent to a 1.5-year-old child, while a dog's was equivalent to a 3-year-old child. On the immortal martial continent, a cat's intelligence was equivalent to an 8-year-old child, and a dog's was even higher. Once the intelligence of the beasts on Earth increased to the level of a child or even an adult, in theory, they would have the possibility of cultivating. Looking at the lion's thoughtful gaze, Jiang Xiu recalled a sentence from the snake demon god. Humans had only taken a shortcut in the past few thousand years. Once they reached the Tao, nothing could last forever. Humans couldn't be the main characters forever. On Earth, humans were the absolute leader of all living things, but on the immortal martial continent, it was different. Their intelligence was actually not ranked high, not to mention the power of their bloodline, which was the most mediocre. Therefore, on the immortal martial continent, there were many non-human rulers. In other words, there was a possibility that Earth was not ruled by humans. On Earth, humans had already been destroyed twice. Although the specific reason was unknown, it couldn't be ruled out that it was because of the rise of the different species. This lion's gaze is so fierce, it's really scary. Zhua Yuchen's beautiful face was filled with fear, but her tone wasn't scared at all. Instead, it was full of ridicule. She was sure that Jiang Xiu wouldn't dare. If the lion was sleeping on the ground, it would be fine if he secretly stroked it. But now that it was awake, if he stretched his hand in, it would definitely bite him. Hee. Jiang Xiu chuckled twice. Not to mention that this lion only had basic intelligence. Even if it cultivated to the level of a demon god, Jiang Xiu wouldn't be afraid at all. With just his arm, the lion wouldn't be able to bite through it at all. However, he didn't have masochistic tendencies. Jiang Xiu let out a beast-like voice from his mouth. Well, it couldn't be called a beast. It was very deep and ancient, as if it came from a very distant place. He was speaking the elementary divine language. The lion's eyes were filled with fear. It actually obediently crawled on the ground and let out a low growl. However, its slightly puffed fur drooped down. Obviously, it didn't dare to be rash. Seeing this scene, Zhua Yuchen's beautiful eyes widened. You know the beast language? Jiang Xiu said, this isn't beast language, it's God language. Even if he doesn't understand it, he can feel the power within the language. It's enough to make him feel fear. Divine language? Zhua Yuchen was very fond of music. In fact, there was no specific language to express music. You could feel it. Low and high notes could affect one's mood. It was easy to understand why a person who didn't understand English couldn't stop her from listening to English songs. However, the word Jiang Xiu used shocked her. Yes, God's language. The power of the God's language is actually not inferior to the so-called mantra of the mages on the streets. Jiang Xiu had also spent a lot of time on this. Some of the spells were explained in the divine language. If one didn't learn it, they wouldn't understand it. Zhua Yuchen's horizons had been broadened today. She thought to herself, no wonder everyone said that he was the strongest person in China. They weren't bragging. This made Jiang Xiu even more mysterious. However, immediately after, Zhua Yuchen's awareness of the situation was terrible. The lion was so obedient in front of him. Why would Jiang Xiu be afraid of touching it? Wouldn't she lose this bet? Her pretty face immediately turned red. Of course, she knew that this so-called warmth was not so simple. She dared to bet because she thought that she would definitely win. Now, it was a success. Anyway, I'm a little girl, not some manly man. I'm going back on my word. Seeing Jiang Xiu reach his hand in, Zhua Yuchen grabbed his clothes and said, don't, the lion will bite you, don't. She screamed until her voice was hoarse. It was heart-wrenching. Of course, she wasn't afraid. In fact, she was worried that Jiang Xiu would warm her up. Seeing her scream so miserably, the lion in the cage looked at her sympathetically. Restrain your grief. No matter how strong she was, she couldn't move Jiang Xiu. Don't touch, don't touch. Just like that, she watched in despair as Jiang Xiu's hand landed on the lion's body. He gently stroked the lion's mane. The lion didn't dare to move at all. Seeing that Jiang Xiu had succeeded, Zui Yuchen stopped screaming. Hee, this lion is quite obedient. What a good lion. After saying that, she let go of Jiang Xiu's clothes and walked forward as if nothing had happened. Let's go look at other small animals. There are many very cute ones. Our second aunt changed the topic without a trace. Jiang Xiu said, Sister Yuchen, you seem to have forgotten something? Zui Yuchen was very puzzled. She blinked her big eyes and said, I forgot something. What is it? I remember that there are tigers in front. Why don't we go look at the tigers? She wanted to go back on her words. Jiang Xiu said, I'll bet. You have to warm me up. This fellow wasn't someone who could be fooled so easily. Zui Yuchen strode with her long legs and prepared to slip away. Jiang Xiu gritted his teeth and said, Sister Yuchen, if you play like this, then I might also be fooling you with a 3-year agreement. These words were so ruthless that Zui Yuchen stopped in her tracks. Okay, I'm willing to admit defeat. Zui Yuchen bit her lips that were a little pale because of the cold. However, those pink and tender lips were still sparkling like fruits. But you can't mess around. Jiang Xiu shook his head. I definitely won't. At this time, they had already arrived at Long Hu's cage. Zui Yuchen looked around and saw that there was no one around. She urged, Then hurry up. There was panic on her face, as if she was facing death with equanimity. Jiang Xiu came to her side. Zui Yuchen's beautiful hair was welcomed by the wind. He couldn't help but take a deep breath. That intoxicated expression on his face was the original form of a pervert in a TV series. The surrounding temperature seemed to have improved in an instant. Zui Yuchen tried hard to shift her thoughts and her gaze landed on the tiger in the zoo. Tiger, oh tiger, you're so brave and fierce. Strong body, sharp teeth, and the aura of a king of the forest. Suddenly, she forcefully closed her eyes. She felt 2 demonic hands reaching into her clothes. She had never had such intimate contact with anyone before. She was so nervous that she almost suffocated. Moreover, these 2 hands were really cold. The temperature in the capital had almost dropped below 0 for the past 2 days. She felt itchy on her neck. Jiang Xiu's heavy-breathing blew hot air on her snow-white neck. She couldn't help but shrink her neck. At this moment, Zui Yuchen felt like a helpless little white rabbit that was pinned down by the claws of a tiger. No matter how she struggled, it was useless. It seemed that the best way was to play dead. She couldn't help but ask softly, Are you done? Are you looking down on me? This is just the beginning. How can it be done so quickly? Are you done? Her voice was full of pleading. Anyone who heard it would sympathize with her. However, Jiang Xiu was indifferent. Beast, he was simply a beast. He even pressed his hands on her lower abdomen. It was very soft and very warm. Your hands are so cold. So, let me warm you up. Zui Yuchen's cheeks were so red that they were about to bleed. Her expression became more and more unnatural. Her breathing became rapid, and her eyes became blurred. Are you done? In the tiger house, a tiger's forelimbs were resting on another tiger's body. They were actually doing something improper. Zui Yuchen never expected to see such an exciting scene in the zoo. It was really embarrassing. However, on second thought, could these 2 tigers be learning from her and Jiang Xiu? Zui Yuchen was really embarrassed. Are you done? She suddenly pressed down on Jiang Xiu's big hands. They had originally agreed to warm her up, but this guy's hands actually wanted to climb up unconsciously. She held them tightly and didn't let go. She said while panting, You promised me that you would be obedient. Jiang Xiu said, Why don't we make another bet? If I dare to touch the tiger, you will let me warm you up again. Zui Yuchen said in annoyance, Do you think I'm stupid? Jiang Xiu said, The tiger may not be able to listen to the divine language. You might even win this round. This guy didn't give up and continued to persuade and tempt her. No. You've warmed enough. Stretch out your hands. How inhumane. Aren't you embarrassed with such cold hands? Zhuo Yuchen seriously expressed her disdain. However, she saw Jiang Xiu's eyes fall on the two tigers. This bad guy. He didn't succeed in his own good thing, but he didn't want others to offend him. He shouted, "Hey, what are you doing?" In broad daylight, in such a peaceful world, you actually do such improper things. Public morals are really degenerating day by day. Sister Yuchen, wait for me. Don't leave so quickly. Chapter 320. She came to the zoo to reminisce about her past happiness, but she didn't expect to be flirted with. She didn't have time to reminisce and walked straight to the gate, feeling like she was running away. Zhuo Yuchen went back to the car in one breath. After getting on the car door, she covered her face with both hands. She was too ashamed to see anyone. She would never make such a bet with him again. She lost too badly. Jiang Xiu came, opened the car door, and sat in. He said, "Do you want to make another bet? Let's see if the next intersection is red or green." Zhuo Yuchen was about to say no, but when she heard the bet, her heart skipped a beat. She turned her face with both hands and stole a glance at Jiang Xiu. No matter how smart he was, it was impossible for him to know if the next intersection was red or green. It all depended on luck. However, after thinking about it, she still shook her head. She had a strong sense of self-protection. After being tricked once, she wouldn't be tricked again so easily. She didn't want to fall into his trap again. She shook her head and said firmly, "No." Jiang Xiu said, "It's too cold. I want to warm up." Zhuo Yuchen reached out and pressed a button. The heater of the car air conditioner blew out. Then she said, "If your hands are cold, you can put them here. They'll be warm in a while." His second aunt was too smart. Jiang Xiu said, "Then let's go back." Zhuo Yuchen pursed her lips. She found that Jiang Xiu was serious when he acted like a hooligan, but he was also serious when he was defeated. Especially when he was defeated, his serious look made people laugh. She couldn't help but smile unconsciously. She felt that she had won back 10%. It was a win if she didn't lose. She stepped on the accelerator a little proudly. Since Jiang Xiu was already married, and Zhuo Yuchen wanted to be with him without any status, everyone had a tacit understanding. To put it bluntly, they would be his second aunt, concubine, and concubine. They couldn't get a marriage certificate, but customs still had to follow the wedding. The Zhuo family even prepared a dowry for Zhuo Yuchen with great fanfare. A property in the capital, an entertainment company that wasn't originally under Zhuo Yuchen's name, was transferred to her name. In addition, a reasonable amount of cash was given to her to send her to the Jiang family. As for the wedding, they didn't mention it. Lin Yueling still couldn't accept it. She felt like a gust of wind sweeping the fallen leaves. She couldn't react at all. Everything was settled. Lin Yueling said, "What are you going to do in the future?" Jiang Xiu said, "Wasn't this decision made by you?" Lin Yueling widened her eyes and said, "How could it be made by me? When did I make such a decision?" But after saying that, she felt helpless. This was what the Lin family and the Zhuo family wanted to see the most. She was only being pushed forward by others. "Okay, it's already like this. How do you plan to tell Su? Jiang Xiu said, "Why do I have to tell her?" Lin Yueling said, "Don't tell me you want me to tell her that you just married a concubine. Now that you have a little money, you're starting to find a mistress and marry a concubine." "Stop." Jiang Xiu said, "Mom, your surname is Lai, right? What does this have to do with me? From the beginning to the end, I didn't say a word. This marriage contract wasn't set by me. Am I the victim?" Lin Yueling couldn't believe her ears. "You're the victim? Jiang Xiu, your skin is really thick. You really dare to say that?" Jiang Xiu said righteously, "It's true." Lin Yueling was really angry. "Yuchen is such a beautiful woman. It's really unfair for her to be with you. Little ancestor, please forgive her." Jiang Xiu smiled. This guy also felt that he was too much of a jerk. Yu Chen can't live at home in the future, right? Lin Yueling frowned. Otherwise, our family will definitely not have a peaceful day. In my opinion, we should raise Yu Chen outside. Zhang Xiu said, keeping a mistress in a golden house. Lin Yueling said in a bad mood, why does it sound so bad when it comes out of your mouth? Don't tell me you want to learn from the landlord and hang the lantern high? Zhang Xiu said, enough, Empress Dowager, is your son that kind of person? Lin Yueling said, I gave birth to you. Under Lin Yueling's gaze, Zhang Xiu felt a little guilty. Her gaze was too scary. He was thankful that she saw through his little scheme. While they were talking, the car arrived. Zhua Yuchen was wearing a traditional red bridal dress. It was the simpler kind. Her neck and hands were full of gold necklaces and bracelets. Her face was also covered with heavy makeup. She really looked like a married girl. The person who sent the car was Zhua Yuchen's grandfather, the head of the Zhua family. He didn't need to send the car at all, but Zhang Xiu was such a big figure, so the old man of the Zhua family had to send it personally. He was in his 80s, but his body was still strong. When he got out of the car, his face didn't look good. The Zhang family didn't prepare at all. They didn't even set up a banquet. What was this? How was this a wedding? Even if the Zhua family married their daughter to someone else as a concubine, they shouldn't be so shabby. Zhang Xiu was now considered a big figure. If he dealt with it like this, it would be bad if the news spread. But no one knew that both Lin Yueling and Zhua Yuchen wanted to be as low-key as possible. But then again, if it was during the Republic of China, marrying a second concubine was just a matter of directly bringing her into the family. However, the Zhua family was a prestigious and wealthy family. It was too ugly. Fortunately, Zhang Xiu's attitude calmed the anger of the Zhua family. He came to the car and squatted down. Zhua Yuchen was carried into the Zhang family by Zhang Xiu. This showed some sincerity. Zhang Xiu carried her very lightly. It was inevitable that there would be some intimate contact, especially when Zhang Xiu's hands were supporting Zhua Yuchen's butt. It was more plump and bouncy than Zhang Xiu had imagined. The Zhua family and the Lin family set off firecrackers. In the sound of the firecrackers, Zhang Xiu carried the New Year's Eve into the house. There was also a photographer who took pictures of Zhua Yuchen in the bride's red robe. It was confirmed that the granddaughter of the Zhua family had fulfilled the marriage contract. The Lin family and the Zhua family were united by marriage. She married the famous Zhang Luoxia as the concubine. In the circle of rich and powerful families, marrying concubines was done secretly. It was the first time that they were not afraid of being known by others. The news spread in the upper-class circle of the capital. Zhang Xiu had made it clear to her that she would be free after 3 years, and Zhang Xiu had promised not to touch her. This was equivalent to a fake marriage. But when she put on the bride's dress and was carried into the house by Zhang Xiu, there was no one else except Lin Yueling, and there was not even a banquet. A sour feeling came to her heart. She could not help crying. The matchmaker was still on the side, saying things like a long and happy marriage and having a son soon. She had worked her whole life, but she had never seen such a wedding. Fortunately, the Zhua family gave her enough money. Otherwise, she would have quit on the spot. After entering the house, not to mention food, there was not even a sip of water. Several aunts of the Lin family helped. Old Master Lin and Lin Zucheng were so happy that they could not close their mouths. In their hearts, they thought that Zhang Xiu would definitely remember them. The villa was big enough. With the help of several aunts and cousins of the Lin family, they managed to deal with the situation. Zhang Xiu carried Zhua Yuchen upstairs. Lin Yueling vacated a room, put on a red beidan, put on a red double happiness, and put Zhua Yuchen on the bed. Zhua Yuchen said in an inaudible voice, "Thank you. I'm very heavy." Zhang Xiu shook his head. He came to the bedside and looked out. Those people were as festive as a real wedding. "You can live here for the next 2 days. When the time comes, my mother said that you will be kept as a mistress." Zhua Yuchen said, "Mistress? Why?" She regretted it as soon as the words left her mouth. Of course, it was because there was already a mistress in the house. Seeing today's scene, Zhuo Yuchen realized that the Jiang family was actually in a difficult position. After all, they had to worry about Chang Lingsu. Jiang Xiu said, "It's indeed a little ugly to be kept outside. It's okay. You can live here." Zhuo Yuchen hurriedly waved her hand. No, I said the wrong thing. I just asked casually. I don't mean anything else. I won't be able to move out in 2 days. I won't cause trouble for you." Jiang Xiu said, "It's no trouble." Zhuo Yuchen said, "Your wife will definitely make a fuss when she comes back. When that time comes, you'll have a headache. You'd better move out. Auntie Yueling is right. I can't cause you any more trouble." Jiang Xiu said, "She won't make a fuss." This big devil in Chang Lingsu's eyes was just worrying that he didn't have a reason to divorce Chang Lingsu. Jiang Xiu didn't marry Zhuo Yuchen just to settle the marriage contract. He also wanted to use this opportunity to divorce Chang Lingsu. As long as Chang Lingsu made a fuss, he would have a reason to say something. When that time came, Lin Yueling wouldn't have anything to say. Chapter 321. Our second concubine didn't know about Jiang Xiu's plan. She still naively thought that Jiang Xiu was protecting her and was afraid of bringing trouble to Jiang Xiu. Thus, she felt very embarrassed. "Master, there's really no need." Lin Yueling came to call Jiang Xiu downstairs. When she heard Zhuo Yuchen's address, she almost fainted. "Master, my God, poor girl, how could you call her that?" Little did she know that all of this was old demon Jiang's plan. Our innocent second concubine was attacked by his cold hands. It was winter. It was definitely comparable to low-voltage electric shock. Under such a lesson, how could she dare to resist? Anyway, she had never heard of any concubine daring to resist the master. "Don't stay in the room. There are so many guests outside. Let Yuchen stay in the room alone. She doesn't have a bridesmaid. Yuchen, let Lin Xiaoke and Lin Mi come up to accompany you." Lin Yueling had a smile on her face, which unexpectedly made Zhuo Yuchen feel as warm as spring. Jiang Xiu said to Zhuo Yuchen, "Then it's settled. I'll go downstairs with my mother first." When they went downstairs, Lin Yueling said softly, "What, Yuchen doesn't want to live outside?" Jiang Xiu said, "Yes." Lin Yueling was quite helpless. She sighed deeply. "Yes, it's too unfair for her. But if she stays at home, Su will know about it." Lin Yueling's plan to delay it for as long as possible was definitely ruined now. However, it would be ruined sooner or later. In the afternoon, the guests left and the house became quiet. There was only one more person in the house. The most hateful thing was that Jiang Xiu quickly returned to his room and locked the door. Zhuo Yuchen said, "Have the guests all left?" Jiang Xiu said, "They've all left." Zhuo Yuchen stood in front of the French window and looked at the door of the villa. The Zhuo family members all left in the car one after another. She had a feeling of being separated from the Zhuo family, as if she was free. "Did you burn your foundational chapters?" Zhuo Yuchen shook her head and said, "Not yet, I can't remember. I'm also worried that I've remembered wrongly, so I didn't dare to burn." She took out the book Jiang Xiu gave her from her sleeve. "But I always carry it with me. I've never shown it to anyone." The foundational chapter that Jiang Xiu had given her was actually written in ancient Chinese. It couldn't be helped, as some words could only be understood and not spoken. It couldn't be written directly in the vernacular, so Zhuo Yuchen could only slowly comprehend them. The foundational chapter was long and had over 1,000 words. To a god like him, this was indeed a piece of cake, but to an ordinary person, it wasn't easy, not to mention that the time given was so short. "Take it slow. Have you started cultivating?" Zhuo Yuchen nodded. "I tried it myself, and I feel that it's not bad. Basically, I've managed to observe the situation from the perspective of one's posture." Jiang Xiu chuckled. "Do you know what it means to judge a situation by one's appearance?" She actually nodded and said, "To strengthen one's body, to refine one's psychokinesis, to concentrate on calming one's mind, to protect one's body and spirit, to achieve the state where one's posture and will are connected, from the outside to the inside. This is what it means to judge a situation from the perspective of one's posture. Zhang Xiu's face was filled with shock. What's wrong? Did I say something wrong? Zhang Xiu shook his head, feeling astonished. It wasn't that what Zui Yuchen said was wrong, but rather that what she said was too true. Disregarding one's talent in cultivation, just this level of comprehension was enough to challenge spiritual cultivation. For those who achieved the state from the perspective of one's posture, their will would become stronger, far surpassing that of ordinary people. At that time, they would be able to sense the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. Humans would instinctively absorb the spiritual qi of heaven and earth, and at that point, they could be considered to have stepped onto the path of cultivation. Zhua Yuchen's physique was special, and her cultivation speed would definitely be faster than ordinary people. In addition to her shocking comprehension, Zhang Xiu felt that it was a pity for her. If she was born in the immortal martial continent, with her talent, her clan would have already nurtured her as the future clan leader. She wouldn't have to be someone else's concubine in exchange for benefits. With her current progress, perhaps in less than 3 years, she would be able to reach Zhang Xiu's original expectations in a little more than a year. The so-called judge a situation from the perspective of one's posture wasn't rare. It was just that this method was a true immortal method. The mortal world's meditation and India's yoga all followed the same principle. Cultivate more. Zhang Xiu pointed to the bowl of water on the table and said, "One day, when you can move the bowl while sitting on the bed, tell me." Zhua Yuchen nodded. At this point, the spiritual energy in Zhua Yuchen's body had accumulated to a certain level. At this time, the spiritual energy in her body could support her to cast some basic spells. During dinner, Zhua Yuchen had already changed out of her bridal makeup and washed away the heavy makeup on her face. Her skin was as white as a baby's, and she sat down to eat with Zhang Xiu and Lin Yueling. "Yuchen, Auntie will be going back to Jiangnan with Zhang Xiu tomorrow. What are your plans?" Zhua Yuchen looked at Zhang Xiu and said, "Auntie, I still have some things to deal with at the company. How about I don't go, okay?" She had thought about it. After all, her marriage with Zhang Xiu was a fake, and she didn't want to get too involved. Especially, she didn't want to have any misunderstandings or conflicts with the Cheng family. This would make things difficult for Zhang Xiu. "Why don't you go with them?" Zhang Xiu was afraid that she would cause trouble there. "You haven't met my father yet. Although my parents are from the capital, I was born in Jiangnan and grew up in Jiangnan. Jiangnan is my hometown. How can you not go and see it?" Zhua Yuchen said timidly, "It's not good for me to go, is it?" Her eyes were full of worry. She didn't want to go to Jiangnan, but she would definitely meet the Cheng family in Jiangnan. How would the Cheng family treat her? Why did Zhang Xiu insist that she go? Would it be good? Then let's go together. Lin Yueling was worried that Zui Yuchen would be disappointed. She was worried that Zui Yuchen would still be like this when she came to the Zhang family after living under the roof of the Zhua family when she was young. No matter what, at least she wanted Zui Yuchen to feel her kindness and warmth. There's nothing wrong. That night, Zui Yuchen faced another problem. Today was her first night as a newlywed. Of course, Zhang Xiu would stay in her room. "You sleep on the bed, I'll sleep on the floor." "Thank you." It was getting late. Zui Yuchen turned her delicate body sideways, her back facing Zhang Xiu. She pretended to be asleep, but in fact, she couldn't calm down for a long time. From time to time, she would turn sideways to look at Zhang Xiu. "Why don't I tell your wife that we're fake and that I'll leave in 3 years?" She felt guilty when she thought about going to Jiangnan to face Cheng Lingsu. Zhang Xiu said, "No need. Cheng Lingsu may not keep it a secret for you. If the Lin family and the Zhua family find out, who knows what will happen? The Zhua family may accuse the Lin family of cheating you," Zui Yuchen said, "but this will bring you inconvenience." Zhang Xiu smiled and said, "Why do you think she's with me? She likes me? No, no one would like a person like me. What she covets is my power. With the power and wealth I have now, as long as her vanity is satisfied, she won't care how many women I have. She also won't leave because I have other women. If she leaves one day, it will be because I have become a pauper who runs a fruit stall." Zhuo Yuchen said, "I heard that you were engaged to her when you were a child." "Yes." Zhuo Yuchen could roughly feel from Jiang Xiu's words that his relationship with Cheng Lingsu was like many other marriages. It seemed that there were no feelings between them. This made Zhuo Yuchen less timid. However, the way she looked at Jiang Xiu gradually changed. There was some pity in her eyes. No matter how strong a person was, there would be times when he was helpless. Zhuo Yuchen asked, "What about you? Do you like her?" Jiang Xiu shook his head. "Then why don't you tell me? With your power, it's not worthwhile for you to marry someone. You can totally find your own love and find the love of your life." Jiang Xiu's eyes flashed with a trace of sadness. Even if he found the love, what could he do? He couldn't have it. As Wang Xintong said, even if he divorced Cheng Lingsu, Cheng Lingran couldn't be with him. The things that happened in his last life would never happen again. He got his parents but lost his love. This might be fate. He slowly turned around and said, "It's late. Go to sleep. We have to take a plane to Zhongnan tomorrow." "Yes." Zhuo Yuchen looked at his back. Her eyes sparkled. She didn't know what she was thinking. She slowly fell asleep. This was her first night away from home. She thought that she wouldn't be able to sleep, but she didn't expect to sleep very deeply. The next day, Zhuo Yuchen fled for her life. She said that there was an emergency in the company. She left the villa early in the morning. Chapter 322. Zhuo Yuchen returned to the company. It was early in the morning, and it was during the spring festival. There was no one in the company. She entered her office. Last time, she smashed everything inside. Now, she had cleaned it up. However, the more she thought about it, the more she felt that she was at a loss. On the table, there was a photo of a couple holding a little girl's hand. It was a photo of Zhuo Yuchen with her biological parents when she was young. "Dad, Mom, thank you." She knew that the reason why Jiang Xiu and his mother took care of her was because Lin Yueling took into account the feelings of her deceased parents. Her parents' kindness back then led to today's good karma. She came to the floor-to-ceiling window. Outside the window, cars occasionally drove by. The capital had never been so quiet. She felt that the air was free. Zhuo Yuchen saw a large bird flying past the window. The bird was extremely large and somewhat frightening. Its body was about 1 meter long and its wings were nearly 2 meters wide. Its pair of golden eyes flew into the distance with a whoosh. She quickly walked a few steps and opened the window to look out. She saw the large bird shuttling between the tall buildings. Where did this big bird come from? This was a big city. Usually, even small birds could not be seen, let alone such a big bird. She was quite knowledgeable about animals, but she did not seem to have such a huge wild bird. The bird's body was majestic, like a falcon. But how could an eagle appear in the city? Should we call the police? Zhuo Yuchen was still very responsible. Such a big bird appeared in a big city. She really had to be careful. She did not know if it was aggressive. If it was, then people would not be safe. After Lin Yueling woke up, she made breakfast. When she saw that Jiang Xiu and Zhuo Yuchen did not wake up at 9 o'clock, she went up to wake them up. However, she was quite happy. It would be best if they gave her a grandson. Minor repairs. Get up and eat. Otherwise, you won't be able to catch the plane. Jiang Xiu went downstairs and did not see Zhuo Yuchen. "Sister Yuchen, did you go out?" "Not in the house." Jiang Xiu shook his head. He realized that Zhuo Yuchen might not be willing to go to Zhongnan. He sat down at the dining table and lowered his head to eat his breakfast. "Forget it. Don't make things difficult for her." Lin Yueling said, "Okay, then hurry up. Sun Xiaohong called me several times." Before boarding the plane, Lin Yueling called Zhuo Yuchen and told her to take care of herself at home alone. After hanging up the phone, she sighed helplessly and proudly. I used to want to have a daughter, but I didn't have one. Now, you have given me 2 daughters-in-law. Zhang Xiu said, Why does it sound like you're scolding me? Lin Yueling said, I'm not scolding you, I'm praising you. Right now, our family isn't any worse than the rich and powerful families. Sooner or later, you'll have to open your mouth. Right now, the most important thing is to quickly give birth to a grandson for Mom. She was thinking that one wasn't enough. Now that there were 2, this matter had to be settled. Just be careful. Su won't be able to accept it. Zhang Xiu smiled coldly. Whoever can't stand it can leave. Lin Yueling glared at him. Look at you. If you dare to let Su leave, I won't let you off. Zhang Xiu said, Then let Sister Yuchen leave. Lin Yueling said, That won't do either. They were all meat. No matter what choice they made, it would be wrong. Okay, this matter ends here. Let's not talk about it anymore. But I'm warning you, it's already too much for you to marry another woman. Don't make trouble for me in the future. Zhang Xiu said, Did I invite these 2 people? Spiritual cultivation was really wronged in this matter. He didn't want to marry Cheng Lingsu at all. It was Lin Yueling who forced him. He had some feelings for Zhua Yuchen. The kindness from his previous life was there, and she was indeed very charming. But the problem was that it was all fake. He could only look at her but not use her. The person he really wanted to marry, he couldn't. Zhua Yuchen came to the Zhang family. Zhang Xiu felt that the distance between him and Cheng Lingran was getting farther and farther, and the possibility was getting lower and lower. Thinking of this, his gaze became somewhat indifferent. Lin Yueling said strangely, Mom, why do you still feel unhappy? Shouldn't he be proud of his success? Thinking of this, he was about to speak when the loud alarm suddenly sounded on the plane. Beep, beep, beep. The atmosphere in the cabin suddenly became tense. The stewardess ran over and said, Mr. Zhang, we have a situation. We received instructions from the control panel that a large number of birds have appeared in the sky. We have to make an emergency landing. Birds? What a joke. The plane's altitude was much higher than birds. But Zhang Xiu thought about it and frowned. He asked, Where are we now? The stewardess looked at the monitor and said, We're almost at Shanghai City. It's still about an hour away from Zhongnan. We need to make an emergency landing at Shanghai City. Zhang Xiu said, It's okay. Continue. The stewardess opened her eyes wide in shock. Mr. Zhang, this is not a joke. If we collide with a bird in the sky, the plane may be pierced and then cause a crash. We can make an emergency landing at Shanghai City Airport and arrange a car to go back to Hangzhou City. It won't take more than 2 hours. Zhang Xiu said, I'm going to see the birds. Don't worry, nothing will happen. The stewardess said, This. She looked at Lin Yueling for help. Of course, they knew what kind of person Zhang Xiu was, but they didn't dare to go against him. But this was not a joke on the plane. They had to listen to the captain. Lin Yueling trusted her son unconditionally. That day, she saw Zhang Xiu fly up the cliff and fight with Ji Wudao. That battle was like a battle between gods. The sky and the earth had long been conquered by people like them. Zhang Xiu said, Go, inform the captain to maintain the flight route. The stewardess ran to inform the captain. The captain was an old captain who was about to retire. He was poached by Wang Xintong with a high salary. When he heard that Zhang Xiu insisted and even wanted to see the birds, he laughed. This was a plane. Why was he throwing a tantrum? He wanted to see the birds in the sky? He personally went to find Zhang Xiu. Zhang Xiu said, There are a total of 6 people on the plane, including the co-pilot, medical staff, stewardess, and chef. My mother is also there. Do you think I would joke about my mother's life? The captain had no choice but to say, All right then. He actually didn't dare to believe that there would be birds flying thousands of meters above sea level. If such a situation really happened, then the entire world's aviation would be suspended. But not long after, he saw a large area of red alert appear on the radar. Beep beep beep. The entire cabin was filled with the sound of the alarms. Zhang Xiu came to the control panel. The old captain's face was completely pale. He cried out, "Oh my God, how many are there? From the display, there are at least a few hundred red dots. What do we do about Mr. Zhang?" Zhang Xiu looked at the distant sky where the clouds were rolling. A large shadow shrouded over. It was densely packed with birds, covering dozens of miles of sky. A conservative estimate was that there were hundreds of thousands, or even millions of them. Oh my God! Oh my God! They were really frightened. They could hear the chirping of birds from far away. What should we do? Zhang Xiu said calmly, "Rush over." A sharp cold light suddenly flashed in his eyes. His gaze passed through the dense flock of birds and went straight to the middle of the flock. In the depths of the flock, a faint light kept flashing. A sword pattern kept shining over, as if there was a long sword piercing through the space on the other side. Well, what's going on? The flock of birds below were also pecking at the space together, as if they wanted to peck through the sky. Ah! The moment the people in the airport crossed paths with the flock of birds, they screamed involuntarily. It felt as if they had entered a bat cave and a large group of bats rushed at them. However, the birds seemed to know that they had to dodge. When the plane rushed over, the flock of birds all moved aside. The huge plane passed through the flock of birds, and in the end, it was unscathed. Hoo-hoo! The people in the airport were all trembling with fear. It's really okay. Zhang Xiu looked back and saw the sword light from the other side of the space shining over. The few birds closest to it suddenly rushed over, crazily colliding and fighting. Feathers fell all over the sky. The whole flock of birds immediately fled in disorder. The battle soon affected everyone. There were birds constantly colliding with other birds, and they died on the spot and fell from the sky. The strangulation in the middle was even more tragic. There was a guardian bird. All the birds that rushed over were knocked down by the birds on the side. That bird seemed to be the king of the flock. Is that the sword light of heaven and earth? Chapter 323. The sword of heaven and earth contained the power of swordsmanship. Obtaining it could greatly increase a swordsman's power. The flock of birds must have known about the appearance of the sword of heaven and earth. Naturally, they would fight for it with all their might. The bird in the middle was huge and looked like the king of birds. It raised its head high and let out a high-pitched cry. It was even emitting layers of light and was very powerful. But in order to get the sword of heaven and earth, the surrounding birds ignored the king of birds and rushed over. The guardian bird on the side did not hesitate and rushed over as well. With a bang, after a fierce physical confrontation, its body fell from the sky. Even its tough skull exploded and blood flowed out. Screech, the king of birds, raised its head high and opened its mouth. It was slowly swallowing the sword pattern that was coming from the sky. Soon, the sword pattern's light became brighter. Zhang Xiu sank into deep thought. He felt that it was a pity. The reason why so many birds had sealed off the area was probably because they did not want others to know about the sword of heaven and earth. From this, he could tell that the birds thought that other living beings would come and take it away. Screech, as the king of birds swallowed the sword pattern, it flapped its wings with all its might. The layers of light began to change into a bright and clear white light. The wings of the king of birds were originally very messy, but they slowly turned snow-white as if they were dyed. In just a short while, it had turned into a snow-white bird. Its size was also increasing at a visible speed. Under the direct sunlight, Mount Meng was covered in a layer of pure white light and became very mysterious. It had evolved. The plane was already far away, but the inch light was still hanging in the sky. It was emitting a bright light as it observed everything that was happening in the sky. The king of birds had noticed it as well. It turned its head to take a look, but it did not seem like it was going to stop swallowing the sword pattern. Instead, it sped up. The sword pattern was slowly being absorbed into its body, and the light that it was emitting had the sword pattern's pattern. Screech, the king of birds, let out a high-pitched cry as it suddenly opened its mouth. Almost at the same time, its body began to grow at a speed visible to the naked eye. It grew to hundreds of meters, and then thousands of meters. It had become a huge creature that could blot out the sky. It swallowed all the birds within half a mile in front of it. None of them could escape this fate and became its food. There were tens of thousands of them. Then, it swallowed another mouthful. Wah wah! The flock of birds flew away in fright. For a moment, the sky was filled with birds flapping their wings and fleeing. The sky was filled with incessant chirping sounds. It was different from the order before. This time, it was a mess. It was like 100 birds paying homage to the phoenix. However, now that they were fleeing for their lives, they only wished that they were born with 2 more wings. Among the flock of birds, a handsome young man with snow-white skin rushed out. However, there was a satisfied smile on his face as he laughed softly. Ha ha ha! Amidst the falling feathers that filled the sky, his entire body was as light as air. He flashed back and forth, so fast that he left no traces behind. His eyes swept across the world below him. Where is this place? This is Earth. This is Earth. Ha ha ha! Following which, he furrowed his brows. The spiritual energy here is really thin. Then the immortals and gods here must be very weak. Does this mean that my by manner is going to rule the heavens? He looked into the distance, and his gaze landed on the inch of light. His expression changed slightly. Sword pellet, but the Blademaster's aura is not here. Interesting. His figure flew toward the inch of light, which immediately trembled slightly. The corners of his mouth raised into a contemptuous smile. Lower God, sword cultivator, in front of the sword light of heaven and earth, how dare you be arrogant? However, seeing that you didn't attack me just now, I'll give you face and leave this place to you. After saying that, he led his army of birds to the east. The east was a peaceful place. He chose the east. In the cabin, Zhang Xiu's eyes suddenly flashed. The sword pellet had already returned to its divine essence. There was no expression on his face, but his heart was slightly moved. The shocking changes of heaven and earth were irreversible. He didn't even know where that person who called himself by manner came from. At this time, the stewardess came over to deliver food. Mr. Zhang, may I take the liberty to ask you a question? Zhang Xiu said, Ask. The stewardess was very puzzled, including the captain and the other staff on the plane. The stewardess said, How did Mr. Zhang know that those birds would avoid the plane? Of course, Zhang Xiu knew that. The world had changed, and the intelligence of living creatures had increased. Of course, they knew how to protect themselves. The plane had such great kinetic energy, and for the birds, it should be a monster that they had never seen before. Only monsters that didn't know fear were not afraid of death. Those that were not afraid of death could be said to have lost their nerves. For example, there were no nerves under the skin of a pit bull. It didn't feel pain even if it was bitten, so of course it wouldn't be afraid of being bitten. Isn't this very easy to understand? Zhang Xiu said, If you encounter a bird in the sky, there might be an accident. Such a large number of birds should be organized. Have you seen geese? They're quite intelligent. If you see a car driving over, they'll avoid it. If they see a plane flying over, they'll also avoid it. The stewardess was amused. Mr. Zhang, you're so smart. After saying that, she even gave Zhang Xiu a coquettish look. This stewardess was also first class. She was carefully selected by Wang Xintong. Her beauty, intelligence, and EQ were all passable. She was definitely a beauty. Wang Xintong knew Zhang Xiu well. She was such a beautiful woman, but he wasn't moved. She wouldn't give up. If a stewardess could move Zhang Xiu, then there was no need to be so hot and beautiful. Zhang Xiu said, How long until we arrive? The stewardess said, About 40 minutes. Because of the appearance of the birds, the airport in Zhang City has stopped flying. The landing should be very smooth. Mr. Zhang, old Madam Zhang, please rest. Call me if you need anything. After the stewardess left, Lin Yueling said, Brat, you better take it easy. Jiang Xiu said, Mom, am I your biological son? Lin Yueling was very firm. No, I picked you up in the latrine. The plane landed on time. Cheng Lingsu came to pick them up. She had the style of a city beauty. She drove a BMW over. Before the new year, she learned to drive because she had to go to work and school. This BMW was so new that it didn't even have a license plate. Jiang Xiu didn't care who paid for this car. Lin Yueling was a little unhappy. Su, why did you sell such a bad car? Clang, I almost fell down. Mom, can you not be so obvious about favoring one over the other? She's always lecturing me at home to be thrifty and not waste my money. Now, Cheng Lingsu bought a BMW, and it's obviously an imported one. The price of the car is conservatively more than 1 million, and she's saying that it's not good. She didn't even earn a single cent now. Cheng Lingsu held Lin Yueling's wrist and said, It's already very good. It's too ostentatious to drive a Ferrari. A BMW is more like it. Mom, why did you suddenly give me money to buy a car? Damn, spiritual cultivation was going to go crazy. And it was Lin Yueling who gave her the money. Lin Yueling said, You're so obedient. Mom is rewarding you. If you perform better this year, Mom will buy you more things. Thank you, Mom. Lin Yueling smiled very strangely. She was worried that Cheng Lingsu would make a fuss because Jiang Xiu married a second aunt. She bought a car to appease her first. Jiang Xiu snorted in his heart. Now Cheng Lingsu was living a good life. Many people coaxed and flattered her to satisfy all her vanity. So what if she didn't buy a car for her? Jiang Xiu didn't believe that she would dare to make a fuss. Seeing Cheng Lingsu driving the car, Jiang Xiu was unhappy. In his previous life, she had caused him so much trouble. In this life, he was despised by her when he was poor. However, she had gained so much from him. He couldn't accept it. He couldn't accept it. Do you know how to drive? If you don't, call the driver. Cheng Lingsu snorted. Don't look down on me. I got my driver's license through the proper exam. She put the car in gear and stepped on the accelerator. Lin Yueling praised, Su drives well. Even the driver at home can't compare. Of course. Cheng Lingsu had just gotten a car. It was the time when she was addicted to driving. Everywhere she went, she drove the car to the wetland villa in Zhongqing. Jiang Xiu wasn't here, so she didn't live here alone. She stayed at her parents' house during the spring festival. However, there were people who came regularly to clean the place. It was very clean. Zhongqing still has a sense of belonging. Lin Yueling looked around the moment she entered the house. It was her first time here. This villa was a gift from Tang Jinshan. Looking at Cheng Lingsu's happy face, Jiang Xiu couldn't wait to make things difficult for her. You had a good spring festival. Yeah. Jiang Xiu said, There's something I think I should tell you. Cheng Lingsu looked expectant. Jiang Xiu had never given her any face. Today, he actually took the initiative to tell her something. She smiled and said, What do you want to say? Jiang Xiu said, I got married 2 days ago. Spiritual cultivation was stirring up trouble. Cheng Lingsu said, Zhou Yuchen from Wufeng's Zhou family? I know her. The Zhou family is in charge of Western Guangdong. Her family is involved in politics, business, and the military. You got the help of the Zhou family and the Lin family. You got the support of 2 big families in the capital. If it were me, I would do the same. Jiang Xiu felt like he had punched cotton. The smile on his face turned cold. Chapter 324. Jiang Xiu felt a deep sense of loss. Cheng Lingsu didn't even have the slightest bit of anger. In other words, Cheng Lingsu didn't have any feelings for him at all. Just as he had guessed, Cheng Lingsu valued his money and power. When he was poor, she didn't hesitate to draw a clear line with him. Her attitude was so firm. When he was in the prime of his life, she played tricks and pretended to be obedient before marrying him. In both his previous and current lives, he had long seen through Cheng Lingsu's character. It was ridiculous that he still had a trace of fantasy about her. Zhang Xiu said, "Since you already know, that's for the best. If you can't accept it, we can think of a way to divorce. You have sufficient reasons now." In the past, when the conflict between the two families had just been resolved, everyone cherished this relationship. However, some time had passed and the honeymoon period was over. Now that such a thing had happened, no one could suppress Cheng Lingsu's opinions. No one had a reason to suppress them. Cheng Lingsu's beautiful eyes blinked and said with a puzzled expression, "Divorce? Why would I want a divorce? I can accept it." She reached for the yogurt on the table and drank with a straw. She even asked, "Do you want it?" Zhang Xiu coldly replied, "No." It was probably harder than killing Cheng Lingsu to give up the glory and wealth in her hands. Seeing Zhang Xiu walk away, Cheng Lingsu stuck her tongue out at Zhang Xiu and made a face. Then, she drank her yogurt and went to find Lin Yueling. At this time, Lin Yueling walked around the villa and said, "This place is bigger than the capital. It's more comfortable." Cheng Lingsu said, "This place has a total of 3 floors. The indoor area is more than 700 square meters. Including the garden and swimming pool outside, it's more than 1,500 square meters. It's very big. Mom, there's nothing at home. I'll take you to my house. Mom still misses you. There's a mahjong game at home. I remember that you used to like playing." Lin Yueling heard and said, "Okay, I haven't played for many years." Lin Yueling shouted at Zhang Xiu and followed Cheng Lingsu out. Cheng Lingsu ran to the car with light steps. Zhang Xiu coldly watched Cheng Lingsu tricking Lin Yueling away and muttered, "Bootlicker." Not long after they left, Zhang Xiu's phone rang. It was a call from Wang Xintong. Skyline Biology Group is progressing well. In just 3 months, they've cultivated 3 demigods. Zhang Xiu said, "Are they using biology or martial arts?" Wang Xintong said, "Biology. There are many Chinese herbs with strong medicinal properties in the mountains. According to the methods left behind by Bodhi Biogenetics, the success rate is very high. They have developed many drugs that can increase strength in the short term and also drugs that can increase strength slowly in the long term. However, according to the information left behind by Bodhi Biogenetics, it's called elixir." Zhang Xiu said, "Of course it's elixir." In reality, the development of medicine in the Skyline Biological Group was similar to the concocting of pills in the immortal martial continent. However, the creatures here were different from those in the Skyline Biological Group. In other words, the so-called pill recipes were different. Zhang Xiu believed that their methods should be the same. And at his level, ordinary pills would not be effective. Only strange fruits or other things that contained a large amount of spiritual energy could be used. The heaven and earth sword light he encountered today belonged to this category. Wang Xintong said, "There are also many biological groups in the country that are developing quite well. Because they have more research and development talents than us, they are going in a different direction. They are focusing on genes." Zhang Xiu said, "What about our genes?" Wang Xintong said, "I asked Mr. Needle Mu. He said that the information that Bodhi Biogenetics spent 100 years to collect was all burned by you." Zhang Xiu remembered that there was such a thing. At that time, it was the will of the heavens. However, now that the world had changed, the heavens had allowed it all to be burned. Wang Xintong continued, "Are we going to develop in this direction too? In foreign countries, biological groups are rising very quickly. Their research in this area has achieved very good results." Zhang Xiu pondered for a moment and said, "You can decide on this matter." The people on Earth were not a cultivation civilization, but their intelligence was definitely not low. Moreover, they were very innovative and had a spirit of research. The inventions of the internet and communication were evidence. If he let Wang Xintong do it, she would not be affected by his thoughts. If it were him, he would instinctively bring over the methods of the immortal martial continent. In addition, there is one more important thing, Wang Xintong said. Not long ago, I received news from the military that a beast tide broke out in Liaodong again. This time, it was more serious than the last time. Many cities were attacked, especially City Ha, which was surrounded by beasts. In Zhang Xiu's mind, he suddenly thought of the mountain that had suddenly emerged from the ground and was punished by the heavens. The situation is very chaotic. City Ha has become a battlefield. Many people have died. I saw the aerial photos. It is simply a disaster for human beings. Now there are more beasts than people in City Ha. The news can't be suppressed. Once it gets out, it will cause a panic in China, no, the whole world. Zhang Xiu said, they are occupying land. Of course, we can't rule out the possibility that there is something they want on that mountain. Didn't the military adjust the defense line? They should be able to control it. Wang Xintong said helplessly, humans are very strange animals. At first, they were scared to death. Now, many underground forces, martial arts families, and major biological groups have sent people to sneak into City Ha to hunt beasts. Zhang Xiu said, humans are like all living things. They have very high intelligence and adaptability. Of course, they won't let go of such a good opportunity to practice and improve their strength. Let our people go too, Wang Xintong said. I have already sent people over. The original people of Skyline Biology Group, the Wang family, the Long family, and the Gu family have all been transferred over. Zhang Xiu said, no family. They are all from Skyline Biology. Oh. Wang Xintong understood what Zhang Xiu meant. He wanted to mold these people into a group and make them be more loyal to Skyline Biology Group than to their own families. This was the establishment of a sense of honor as a team. With Zhang Xiu, the spiritual leader, it was not difficult to nurture them. I also set up a level, Zhang Xiu said, get to the main point. Wang Xintong said, okay, I'll get to the main point. Congratulations. You have another wife. However, I guess you won't be happy because you still can't marry the person you want. Beep, beep, beep. Zhang Xiu had already hung up. He hung up on me again. Wang Xintong thought to herself. If you marry someone you have no feelings for, then marry me too. Do you want me to be your maid for the rest of my life? Even if I am a maid, I should at least be a concubine. The explosion in City Ha and the appearance of Bai Zhuang made Zhang Xiu feel a little urgent. He had a desire to improve his strength, but it was too slow to ascend from a lower god to a higher god and wait for natural awakening. Although the cultivation conditions here had improved, it was still too slow for a god. If he wanted to make real progress, he would need heavenly treasures or things with sufficient spiritual power. No matter what, Zhang Xiu had to cultivate first. In Shishu Mountain, a thick fog appeared out of thin air. This fog had shrouded the mountain for a full month. Many people thought it was a strange sight. The roads around the mountain were cut off because of this. It was not until today that the fog faded. In the sky, an ancient palace could be vaguely seen. This made many people film it and post it on the internet. In the next few days, the fog dissipated and the palace disappeared. Below the fog was the famous sword palace of Shishu. At this moment, many people gathered at the entrance of a cave. The door of the cave, which had been closed for more than 10 years, was finally going to open today. It should be time. Did you remember the wrong date? One of the old men gritted his teeth and said, no, it's today. In order to wait for this day, I have been counting the days every day. Tsonger's death is just waiting for the ancestor to come out and avenge him. Zhang Luoxia, it's time for you to die. Creak. The dust-covered door slowly opened. Because too much time had passed, dust constantly drifted down from the door. Behind the door, a figure slowly walked out. The people waiting outside all knelt down excitedly. Greetings, ancestor. Chapter 325. With just one step, the figure stepped out of the cave and stood in the middle of the field. His black hair hung down and his long robe fluttered in the wind. His entire being was filled with the aura of an immortal. His slender and neat sword fingers casually drew a line in the air. The sound of a sword rang out from the cave behind him, and a white, cold sword light shot out. The sword light seemed to have a mind of its own as it landed in front of the person's feet. The person casually took a step forward and stepped on the sword light. At this moment, the crowd could see clearly that there was a long sword within the sword light. The person stepped on the sword, and the long sword slowly rose into the air. "Oh my God! Oh my God!" Everyone present cried out involuntarily. They were so shocked that their eyes were about to pop out. The scene in front of them was too shocking, and the shock continued. The long sword continued to rise, from a meter above the ground to more than 10 meters above the ground. Then, with a whoosh, it directly shot into the sky. The person and the sword turned into a dazzling brilliance, circled around the sky, and rushed back from the clouds. Shocked, really shocked. Sword flight. This is the legendary sword flight. The art of a sword immortal, the art of a sword immortal. In the western Shu Mountain, the legend of a sword immortal had been passed down for more than 2,000 years. However, no one had ever seen it with their own eyes. But now, a real sword immortal had appeared in front of them. Seeing the Grand Elder return on his sword and land on the ground, the immortal aura made people's hearts surge. "Grand Elder, you really did it, really did it?" The person who was addressed as the Grand Elder was none other than the legend of the Hua Nation, the representative of the Hua Nation's martial arts world 60 years ago, Si Wuxie. He was also very excited. "Yes, it's done. I finally achieved the sword that connects all things, and I've achieved sword flight." There seemed to be sword light flashing around him all the time. The people around him did not dare to get close, afraid that they would be accidentally injured by the sword light. "Congratulations, Grand Elder, congratulations." Si Wuxie raised his head and laughed loudly. His eyes flashed with lightning, and he was in high spirits. Looking at him carefully, his skin was like white jade, and the flesh under his skin seemed to be emitting light. His whole person was like a dream. "Ancestor, may I ask, what realm have you reached now?" Si Wuxie said, 500 years of being an earth immortal is already a thing of the past. I've already stepped onto the golden core Tao. Above, I'm connected to the heavenly dipper. Below, I'm connected to the earthly fiends. I'm aware of the changes of the heavens and earth. They all looked at each other in dismay. They didn't understand at all, as if they were listening to a book. However, this did not stop them from feeling shocked. 500 years of being an earth immortal was a thing of the past. In other words, the patriarch was not just an immortal, but an existence of a higher level than an immortal. When he survived the nuclear bomb, the outside world thought that the patriarch was just a demigod. Little did they know that he was already an immortal at that time. Only immortals could survive such nuclear fusion. How could a demigod survive? At that time, he was an existence that even nuclear bombs could not threaten. Now that he had taken another step forward, what else on earth could threaten him? Forefather is mighty. There's hope for Tsung Er's revenge. Si Wuxie's gaze swept across the crowd. Revenge? What revenge? Could it be that someone dares to cause trouble for the West Shu Sword Palace? Patriarch, you must avenge Tsung Er. One of the elders fell to his knees. His hair was already white, but he still had tears and snot running down his face. Tsung Er, are you talking about that little child with good potential? Yes, he's the child that you saw before you went into seclusion more than 10 years ago. You said that he would become a demigod, but he was killed by someone. Si Wuxie was shocked. According to the time, the child was in his 20s. A demigod in his 20s was a talent that was hard to come by in 100 years. This proved that his original judgment was correct. This child was extremely talented. If he progressed smoothly, he would be able to inherit the mantle in the future. But now he was killed. How dare you? Si Wuxie was furious. Everyone present trembled. Who killed him? The elder who was kneeling and crying said, "It was Zhang Luoxia. He's a powerful cultivator who emerged recently. Tsung Er had a conflict with him in the Ji family. Tsung Er only offended him. Tsong-er knelt and begged for mercy. I even mentioned the patriarch, but he killed Tsong-er without a care. Si Wuxia said, Zhang Luoxia? Yes, this person emerged very suddenly. He's extremely powerful. We don't dare to seek revenge on him. We can only hope that the patriarch will come out of seclusion and uphold justice. This person is now known as the strongest cultivator in China. He killed Ji Wudao and destroyed the Heaven sect. Si Wuxia said, God? If it was before the breakthrough, I might have been afraid of him. But now, how is he any different from an ordinary person? It was around dinner time. Cheng Lingsu returned home. When they were alone, Jiang Xiu's face was extremely cold. Cheng Lingsu was used to it. Jiang Xiu, my parents asked me to come and pick you up. Jiang Xiu was about to speak when the quick-witted Cheng Lingsu added, Mother-in-law and father-in-law are already here. Since the beginning of the new year, Jiang Xiu had not visited his father-in-law's house to give his New Year's greetings. Jiang Xiu naturally would not give Cheng Lingsu face. However, Lin Yueling and Zhang Yi were both going. If he did not go, Cheng Lingsu would not be able to do anything to him. However, Lin Yueling and Zhang Yi would teach him a lesson. Jiang Xiu's face was cold. He could only say, okay. Cheng Lingsu said, then hurry up. It's getting late. I'll wait for you in the car. Nowadays, Su Su would drive around whenever she had nothing to do. Jiang Xiu went to take a shower. He took his time and appeared at the parking lot after about 10 minutes. Does your sister know that I married a second wife? Cheng Lingsu said, she doesn't know, right? Why? Are you afraid of my sister? Well, you've been very obedient to her since you were young. If she knew that you married a second wife, she would definitely not let you off. Jiang Xiu felt that his throat was a little dry. Don't worry, I won't say anything. Jiang Xiu glanced at her. Cheng Lingsu's perfect face was expressionless. It's best if you don't say anything. Also, you'd better not mention me in front of her. Cheng Lingsu could not help but look back at Jiang Xiu. She could not understand what Jiang Xiu meant. His face was also indifferent as usual. If there was anyone in the Cheng family that Jiang Xiu had a slight favorable impression of, it should be his sister. She used to treat him badly, and his mother also disliked her. Although his father did not show it on the surface, he did not think much of him in his heart. Only his sister was sincere to him. Okay, I won't say anything if she doesn't ask. After saying that, Su Su said, the thing in the bag on the side is yours. What? Su Su said, you'll know when you open it. Jiang Xiu picked it up. It was quite heavy. When he opened it, he saw that it was a shirt. It was the shirt that he had asked her to wash after he dirted it. What do you mean? Cheng Lingsu said, I've washed it for you. She had only found it after shopping all over the capital and Jiangnan. In the future, I'll help you wash all your clothes. Jiang Xiu was a little puzzled. Why did she suddenly become so proactive? Usually, she was like a spinning top and would not move unless he whipped or hit her. He thought, could it be that Zui Yuchen's appearance made her feel threatened? I don't like to wash it in the washing machine. I'll wash it by hand. The car was driven very steadily. Cheng Lingsu was indeed not bad in this aspect. Compared to other girls, she was not only better in terms of appearance, but also more outstanding in terms of her mentality. Her psychological quality was very good, and she did not panic at all on the road. The car drove into a new neighborhood in the city. Their original home had been sold, and the place they lived in was old. This building was developed by the program, and they kept the best one. The villa in the neighborhood was not as quiet as the other villas, nor was it as noisy as the other neighborhoods. It was just right. As soon as the car stopped, something was thrown down from upstairs. A beautiful girl stood on the balcony and smiled at them. You two are so slow. I'm starving. Who else could this girl be but Cheng Lingran? Seeing her, Jiang Xiu's gaze was deeply attracted. He did not know if it was because of their relationship in their previous life, or if it was because of the saying, it's better to not have it. The more you can't get something, the more fascinating it was. Sister, Chang Lingran said, come in quickly. She also turned and went into the room, stomping down the stairs. That pair of little ancestors is finally here. Sun Xiaohong opened the door. Minor repairs are here. Come in quickly. Su Su's car is always frightening. Cheng Hanlin also came out from inside. He was holding a crutch in his hand and could basically walk normally. After entering the house, Cheng Lingran secretly said, Brat, did you buy me a fake necklace? Still pretending? I saw a real one on the internet. It's priced at 500 million euros. Zhang Xiu said, Sister. What sister? You're really shameless. I treated you so well, but you bought a fake to fool me. Qing Lingran looked very angry. She looked like she was going to teach Zhang Xiu a lesson. What about the necklace? I threw it away in a fit of anger. Zhang Xiu. Even though his spiritual cultivation assets were amazing and he did not care about money, when he heard this, his heart was bleeding. Chapter 326. Thus, Zhang Xiu said honestly, Sister Lingran, I was wrong. Cheng Lingran said, It's good that you know you were wrong. Zhang Xiu said, Sister, can I ask where you threw the necklace? Cheng Lingran smiled sweetly. I'm not telling you. Zhang Xiu felt that her smile was a little strange. Cheng Lingran was not a snobbish person, so there was no reason for her to dislike whether his gift was real or fake. Cheng Lingran said, Son-in-law, this is your first time coming here empty-handed. You're really something. So is Su Su. She's not sensible at all. So she's angry that I don't care about the Cheng family, so she's teaching me a lesson. She's still so good at persuading people. Zhang Xiu said, You really threw the necklace away? Cheng Lingran smiled and said, Yes, I threw it in the trash can outside. Are you going to run over and find it for me now? Zhang Xiu said, Anyway, it's fake. So what if you threw it away? Cheng Lingran stopped smiling and said angrily, You're not sincere at all. After saying that, she quickly walked into the kitchen to help. Zhang Xiu looked at her good back and felt happy. Women are really. Perhaps because Cheng Lingran was older than them, she was very good at taking care of people. Su Su basically did not do any housework. It could be said that she really did not do any housework. Cheng Lingran knew how to do any housework, so she was very gentle when taking care of Zhang Xiu after their marriage in the previous life. The weather in Zhang City was warm, and the sun was shining brightly. The family sat in the courtyard and chatted. There were not many people in the family. There were only 7 people in total, but the laughter was endless. The two families had reconciled and cherished each other even more. There was no end to talking about the past. Everyone was happy and harmonious. Zhang Xiu felt as if he had returned to the happiest time of his childhood. However, his only regret was that it would have been perfect if he had married Cheng Lingran instead of Cheng Lingsu. Have some fruit. Cheng Lingran cut a few slices of orange and brought them over. Here. Cheng Lingsu was the first to take it, but she handed it to Zhang Xiu. Zhang Xiu looked at her, and the look in his eyes was very obvious. Cheng Lingsu tilted her head and smiled, looking cute and naughty. Were they going to pretend to be in love in front of the elders? Do you care about hygiene? Are your hands clean? Cheng Lingsu's fair fingers were even more dazzling under the sunlight, and her sparkling fingernails were even more dazzling. Everyone else would go crazy with joy if a beauty was brought over to you, yet you still despise her? Although he said that, he still reached out and took it. Cheng Lingsu said coquettishly, Will it taste better this way? Your hands are seasoning. It'll taste better if you take it off. You two are still young. Cheng Lingran carried the fruit plate to the elders. When she came to her mother, Cheng Lingran said, Mom, do you feel that minor repairs and Su Su are a little strange? Sun Xiaohong said, What's wrong? Cheng Lingran said, When young people are in love, especially newlyweds, they can't wait to stick together every day. Minor repairs and Su don't look like each other at all. Look at them sitting there, there's enough space for one person to sit between them. They haven't done anything intimate since they met. Sun Xiaohong looked at them. She didn't think that there was anything wrong with Jiang Xiu and Cheng Lingsu, but Jiang Xiu was now a big shot and was putting on airs. Jiang Xiu really had the powerful aura of a leader. It's nothing. Minor repairs has a cold personality and always has a cold expression on his face. He's not good at expressing his feelings. Cheng Lingran looked confused. Mom, are we talking about the same person? When Jiang Xiu was with her, he was very outgoing and even a little naughty. There wasn't much difference from before, and he would even sell her gifts and be so considerate. Of course. Sun Xiaohong was still worried that Jiang Xiu would bear a grudge against her because of her prejudice against him. Now, many of her friends knew that her daughter was married to Mr. Jiang, and they were begging her to build a relationship. However, she didn't dare to overstep her boundaries because of Jiang Xiu's aura. At the same time, she felt that no matter what, she was his mother-in-law. From this point of view, shouldn't he respect her a little? But she still didn't dare to. Your Aunt Yueling said that Jiang Xiu is also like this at home. He doesn't talk much, and his face is cold. It's as if everyone owes him money. According to your Aunt Yueling, he needs to be taught a lesson. Cheng Lingran couldn't help but laugh. Yes, he does need to be taught a lesson. According to Cheng Lingran's past experience, he would be terrified as soon as she taught him a lesson. On the other side, Cheng Hanlin and Jiang Yi were playing Go. Cheng Hanlin was no match for them in the past, and now he was even less of a match. Jiang Yi played Go most of the time in prison. After more than 10 years, his Go skills were enough to be a professional Go player. Jiang Xiu said, "I'm going out tomorrow." Jiang Yi said, "You just came back. What's the matter?" Jiang Xiu nodded. "It's not a small matter." Jiang Yi looked at his son. With Jiang Xiu's current status, it must be a big matter if he said such a thing. And these days, he had heard a lot of news. "Where are you going?" Jiang Xiu said, "Liaodong's Ha City." That place could be called a desolate city. There were more beasts than people hiding there. Now, those who knew the situation there called it a fallen area. Jiang Xiu didn't want to go there to kill beasts and level up. He didn't want to go there. He wanted to know what secrets were hidden in that mountain that had emerged from the ground. With the heavenly punishment and the gathering of beasts, there must be a secret hidden in that mountain. If he could obtain a heavenly treasure, it would be of great help to his cultivation. Jiang Yi said, "I also heard some things. That place has already been marked out as a safe zone. You have to be careful when you go." At the banquet, Cheng Lingsu couldn't sit still after sitting for a while. People who didn't like wine definitely couldn't sit still at the table. She and Cheng Lingran said that they were going to watch a movie. Lin Yueling asked Jiang Xiu to accompany the two sisters. After leaving the house, Cheng Lingran confidently pressed the key of the car. The car beeped. Cheng Lingran happily ran to the front passenger seat. She asked her sister about her driving skills from time to time. She didn't have a driver's license yet. Jiang Xiu was left out in the back seat. That night, Jiang Yi and Lin Yueling went back to the house arranged by the city government. Only Jiang Xiu and Cheng Lingsu were at home. Cheng Lingsu, who was left alone, was miserable. She had to clean the room and was tidied up by Jiang Xiu. Cheng Lingsu pulled out a suitcase and helped Jiang Xiu pack his clothes into it. "How long will you be gone for?" Jiang Xiu said, "Not necessarily. It's very cold in Harbin. Bring more clothes to change into." In the end, Cheng Lingsu packed 2 big suitcases for Jiang Xiu. Jiang Xiu said, "Do you think I'm an immigrant?" Cheng Lingsu had to take out the clothes again. She whispered, "How long will you be gone for?" "You won't tell me." "Of course, I'll pack more clothes for you." She said, "Then bring 1 less suitcase." "What time is your flight tomorrow?" Harbin was completely paralyzed. Jiang Xiu had to go to Liaodong Airport first, and then take a car to the border of Harbin. It was not easy to enter directly, so he rented a military jeep at the border. The last time Nangong Ko brought him to this shop, the business here was even better than before the beast tide. Many people rented cars, and most of them never returned. Second-hand cars were basically sold out, and the deposit had to be increased again and again. He threw the suitcase Chung Ling-su had prepared into the back seat and drove into Harbin. The boss of the rental car reminded him, "There are a lot of mercenaries and beasts in there, but the most difficult thing is not the pressure they bring you. The biggest problem is the food. The things in there are very expensive. Not only is it expensive, you can't buy food even if you have the money. I advise you to bring more dry food in." In the depths of Harbin, a young girl was standing on a 20-story abandoned building. In front of her was a messy street. From her position, she could see 3 main roads. The young girl was very beautiful. Her skin was white, and her eyes were dark. However, she was holding a dagger in her hand, which was stained with blood. No one dared to approach her. According to the information, there are 3 monsters nearby. If Zhang Xiu saw her, he would be shocked. It was Miss Nangong Ko who knew him very well. After her family found out that she had the psychic emergence ability, she received training. During this period, she made rapid progress. When the animal tide broke out in Harbin before the new year, she came here for hellish special training. She was now a senior warrior, and it was easy for her to deal with 1 or 2 monsters. Someone dares to enter Harbin again. From afar, she saw a military jeep enter the main road of Harbin. The car was driving recklessly. The sound of the engine came from afar, and the smoke was billowing. Nangong Ko couldn't help but shake her head and say, "What a newbie." Chapter 327. A man in his 30s was standing next to the girl. He had a pair of binoculars hanging in front of his chest, and he picked it up to take a look. Of course, he couldn't see the driver's face clearly, but he could see how many people were inside the car. He said in surprise, "It's so strange. How come there's only 1 person, and he looks like an Asian?" Nangong Ko who was standing next to him, thought for a while and said, "It's really strange. Remember the license plate." Those who entered Harbin were either martial cultivators or mercenaries. Of course, there were also government soldiers. Their purpose was to save people, while most of the martial cultivators and mercenaries came here to cultivate. The big biological groups even used Harbin as a test area to evaluate the strength and level of the cultivators. It was really hard to figure out the purpose of a single person entering Harbin. Nangong Ko swung the dagger in her hand, and the dagger in her gloved hand emitted a dazzling cold light. The dagger was extremely sharp, and if she wasn't careful enough, she might injure herself, but she still played with it as she pleased. Her dagger was made with special materials and techniques. Even bullets could easily penetrate the body of a wild beast, but this dagger could easily cut open a wound. It was definitely worthy of being called a divine weapon. Now, the biological groups called it a divine weapon. "Miss, do you want to capture that brat? We're here to gain experience. What's the point of snatching a newbie? If you have the ability, go and snatch from other biological groups," Nangong Ko said disdainfully. "Let's hurry up and kill the 3 monsters nearby," the man with the binoculars said. "Hey, that guy is really a newbie. He rushed directly to the city center. He really doesn't want to live anymore." The closer they got to the city center, the more beasts there were, and the stronger they were. There were even rumors that the king of beasts was in the city center. "Don't worry about him." It was Zhang Xiu who was in the car. After he came in, he completely ignored the beasts and all kinds of martial cultivators and mercenaries, and went straight to the big mountain in the city center. Of course, he wasn't familiar with the roads in Harbin, so he turned on the GPS, but it was a problem. The city was seriously damaged, and many roads were blocked by collapsed buildings that were dozens of stories high. Zhang Xiu didn't go crazy, but the GPS went crazy first. After entering Harbin, there was no cell phone signal. Other than being used for illumination, the cell phone was basically used as a brick. The major corporations and mercenaries all used their special communicators to contact each other. Do you need to walk? The weather outside was very cold, and the distance was very far. The most troublesome thing was that Jiang Xiu was carrying luggage and food. If they were to walk there, it would be a lot of suffering. Let's take another turn. Jiang Xiu was very diligent in cultivation. That was because he was a cultivation maniac. As for other aspects, he could only shake his head. Seeing a relatively flat land, he stepped on the accelerator and rushed over. According to his guess, since so many people had entered Harbin, there must be a road that cars could drive in. More than 500 meters ahead, there was a 3-story building that had collapsed. There was even a moving advertisement hanging below it. A tall man was holding a huge rock with both hands, his eyes aimed at the car that was speeding towards him. Go away! The huge rock was thrown down by him. Jiang Xiu saw a huge rock falling from the sky in front of him. He hurriedly stepped on the brakes. The tires rubbed against the ground fiercely, emitting a pungent burnt smell. There was a loud bang. The rock was more than 1 meter high, and it directly smashed a hole in the ground. The car couldn't avoid it and hit the rock with a bang. The image of Chang Lingsu driving appeared in Jiang Xiu's mind for no reason. He thought to himself, could it be that my driving skills are not as good as hers? Missed. The crowd on the roof jumped down from the ruins and walked towards the car. There were 5 people in a row, both men and women. The one who threw the rock was a young man with a crew cut. He was more than 9 meters tall, and he was much bigger than the girl beside him. He reached out and pulled the car door directly. He reached in to grab the food. The boy beside him asked, "Do you have water?" He saw mineral water, picked up a bottle, and threw it over, completely ignoring Jiang Xiu's existence. He saw bread and directly tore it open and ate it. Is the guy who drove the car dead? A girl with a cold face inside asked. Who cares? He drove so arrogantly on the main road. Even if we don't do anything, he will die sooner or later. It's better to contribute to us. The young man drank a mouthful of water and handed it to the girl. He took the food and prepared to leave. Hey! The sudden voice stopped them. The 5 people turned around and saw Jiang Xiu safe and sound coming down from the driver's seat. Are you going to leave just like that? Hey, a bit interesting. There's no injury at all. Sure enough, those who enter Harbin are not ordinary people. The young man said, Otherwise, what do you want? Jiang Xiu said, Leave the thing or leave your life. Ha ha ha. The young man laughed. You're so arrogant. Hurry up and get out of here. This is a fallen area. No one can stop you if you kill people here. Yes. Jiang Xiu suddenly moved. His body flashed, and at the same time, he kicked out. So fast. The young man's equipment was not cheap. Biological Group's equipment was one of their main sources of income. The clothes they wore were specially made. Even the melon seeds of monsters could not tear them. Their defense was much better than bulletproof vests. Of course, the price was much higher. Bang! Jiang Xiu kicked the young man's chest. The young man flew out like a cannonball. The people around were shocked. This strength was probably that of a senior warrior. Bang! The young man fell heavily on the ground and rolled for 5 or 6 meters before stopping. Kong Jin. Jiang Xiu did not tear his clothes, but the strong impact alone was enough to break his bones and cause internal bleeding. He died in an instant. The members of the robbery team turned pale. Their hearts sank. They kicked a steel plate. The big guy put the box of food and water on the ground. Our things belong to Pantheon. Let's stop here. With one kick, Kong Jin flew out. This speed and strength were at least that of a senior warrior. But to kill Kong Jin with one kick, this strength was no longer at the level of a warrior. The cold-looking girl had a watch on her hand. It was an energy detector. It could detect the strength of Jiang Xiu's attack. At this moment, her watch vibrated. It was an alarm, telling them to get away from the opponent quickly. It was obvious that the remaining 4 of them were no match for him. She secretly glanced at it, and the cold sweat on her forehead almost dripped down. Over 10,000, in bright red words. Combat strength 10082. Even the director of Pantheon creatures in charge of Harbin could not do this. Over 10,000 was so far away for them. I'm sorry. The cold-looking girl bowed her head and apologized. Living a hellish life in Harbin, she had almost abandoned all ideas except survival. At this moment, she realized that she wanted to kill Kong Jin and steal his food. They had nothing to say about Kong Jin's death. Move the things back. The big man did not dare to disobey. He hurriedly moved the things back to Jiang Xiu's car, and then consciously moved the big stone on the road away. Jiang Xiu smiled coldly, sat in the car, and drove away. Although the back door was pulled down and the front of the car was crooked, it did not affect the normal driving of the car at all. Looking at the car flying away, the big man and the girl were stunned. After a while, the big man said, "Who is he?" "I don't know. Our instructor is no match for him. Look. Over 10,000 combat strength. My God." They felt very lucky. If Jiang Xiu wanted to kill them, it would be easy. Bury Kong Jin. After driving for more than 10 minutes, Jiang Xiu saw the sign of the government army on the roadside. Seeing their military uniforms, he suddenly felt a sense of familiarity. Several soldiers came over to check Jiang Xiu's ID. "What are you doing here? Don't tell me you are also here to experience life." The soldier was quite honest. Jiang Xiu said, "Why? Is it forbidden to enter?" "Not really. It's very dangerous inside, but you are free to go in if you want." He pointed at the relief battle. "Do you see that group of people? They are the children of rich families who come here to play. There are also people from the biological group leading the group. The cost is frighteningly high." Jiang Xiu was speechless. There was such a way to make money. "Hey, handsome, are you coming? We still have one more place." A person who looked like a tour guide. Behind him were several people in camouflage and carrying weapons. Jiang Xiu said, "I want to see the mountain that emerged from the ground." "Then you have to follow the group even more. We are going there." Jiang Xiu was also worried about how to get there. Since there was a tour guide, he would follow the tour guide. Chapter 328. In the supply station, there was a woman who looked like a young lady. She was probably in her 20s. Seeing that the tour guide was still trying to recruit people, she frowned. "What's wrong? You still want to recruit people? Didn't I pay enough?" The tour guide, Old Chen, said, "We'll pick one up on the way. It's different from traveling outside. It's good to have more people." "Good?" The woman snorted. "This is the first time I've heard of traveling. It's good to have more people in a tour group. You only have so few people and you already have to protect so many of us. If you add one more, the service ratio will be less than 1 to 3. Do you think I'm stupid? We can't take this person with us." Old Chen was a little troubled. "Well, I already promised him," Jiang Xiu said. "I can take care of myself. I don't need to be protected." Old Chen also felt that Jiang Xiu should have some skills when he came to the supply station alone. However, the woman wasn't easy to talk to. She said to the person beside her, "Ji Xiang, measure his combat strength." The man used his watch to measure Jiang Xiu. Overall score 73. This was a reconnaissance device produced in America. Originally, it was used by the military. However, America was a relatively open country, so it was quickly popularized. The leaders of that country believed that it was necessary to popularize it, so some domestic financial groups bought it from America. It could measure a person's muscle strength, nerve reflex speed, overall heat index, and some genetic calculations. It could estimate a person's combat strength. Not only could it be used to measure humans, but it could also be used on cats and dogs. In other words, it could also be used to measure wild animals. 73. Is this what you mean by being able to take care of yourself and not needing protection? A single digit was an ordinary person. A double digit was a low-level warrior. A triple digit was an intermediate warrior. A triple digit was an advanced warrior. Of course, this was a rough estimate. It wouldn't be 100% accurate, but it wasn't far off. The error wouldn't be more than 10%. Zhang Xiu didn't know about this kind of advanced technology, nor did he understand what the tour guide was talking about. With this kind of combat strength, it's not a problem in the periphery of Harbin. But in the city center, especially in the direction of Gu Mountain, there are a lot of exotic beasts gathered there. Can he deal with them? The tour guide, Old Chen, was a little troubled. Indeed, it was impossible for a beginner warrior to deal with a large group of exotic beasts, but if Zhang Xiu was so strong, he wouldn't need them. Miss Li, you've already brought so many bodyguards. In fact, bringing one more person is really nothing. Old Chen still wanted to do this business. In the past, business was still good, but since the situation here deteriorated, fewer and fewer tourists dared to come here. Their business was about to collapse. Not only that, as a large number of exotic beasts enter the market, the risk factor would increase exponentially. They had originally planned to wash their hands of this business, but there were some internal disagreements. Some people weren't willing to give up, and in the end, they came to a consensus and decided to do the last order. Do us a favor. We're also risking our lives. The person surnamed Li looked at the tour guide. She was also someone who could be persuaded by reason but not cowed by force. She said, I can let him follow, but I don't like people who talk too much. Tell him to keep his mouth shut on the way. The tour guide, Chen, was overjoyed. Okay. He definitely won't disturb you. After negotiating with the big employer, the tour guide, Chen, charged Zhang Xiu. Brother, if you want to go on a tour, it's not cheap. 100,000 yuan. Non-negotiable. The price of losing one's head wasn't high. In the 90s, it was almost this price for illegal immigration. Zhang Xiu didn't say anything and swiped his card. Okay, brother, I promise you that you'll go and come back safely. It'll be exciting. Nothing bad will happen. After receiving the money, the tour guide, Chen, was full of smiles. After this trip, he would leave Harbin and live the rest of his life leisurely. The big employer surnamed Li said, You're bringing such a big suitcase. Do you really think you're traveling and can stay in a hotel? The people around couldn't help but laugh. The tour guide Chen said, Little brother, what's in your suitcase? Zhang Xiu said, A change of clothes, and food and drinks. The tour guide Chen said, That's not necessary. Let's be quick. It'll only take a day to go back and forth. It's not worthwhile to bring clothes and so much food. Just pack a backpack and stuff some noodles and water. Leave the things at the supply station. Zhang Xiu didn't expect the situation here to be so bad. He nodded, but he wouldn't come out so soon, so he brought more dry food and instant noodles. Are you all ready? Let's go. Zhang Xiu and his group got into the car arranged by the tour guide and headed inside. The driver was very familiar with the roads and took the safest route. Brother, what's your name? Zhang Xiu. The tour guide, Chen, had a brother sitting on the back of the car. Another brother opened the way in front and another stayed behind. The division of labor was very meticulous and they cooperated very well. Brother Zhonggu, are you here to broaden your horizons? You can say that. Compared to the arrogant employer, the tour guide preferred to chat with Zhang Xiu. It's very unsafe inside. The center of Harbin is basically occupied by exotic beasts, and soldiers can't enter. It's a completely out-of-control area. Once something happens, it's completely impossible to find help. Zhang Xiu asked, I heard that all the exotic beasts are heading to that ancient mountain. Do you know why? The tour guide, Chen, touched his white beard stubble and said, I don't know the details, but I heard that it's called the Immortal Land Mountain. It emerged because of the earthquake. A while ago, when aerial photography was still available, many elk could be seen running in the mountain. Don't all immortals ride deer when they travel? In Chinese mythology, immortals did ride deer, and deer had the highest spirituality among all animals. The walking animals were deer, and the flying animals were white cranes. They were all standard. Can anyone get anything from there? The tour guide Chen shook his head and said, I haven't heard of it. Previously, there was lightning on the immortal land mountain from time to time. Thunder and lightning rolled down from the mountain from time to time, and no one dared to go up. Later, after the beast tide broke out and the exotic beasts wanted to occupy it, we realized that there might be something good inside. That's when everyone thought of going up. The car suddenly stopped. The tour guide, Chen, asked, What's wrong? The driver turned around and said, There should have been a fierce battle on the original route. The road has been sealed and we can't get through. Li Yan said, Then what should we do? I paid a huge sum of money. It's going to be dark soon. If we can't get there, will we have to sleep in the car? Once night fell, it was basically pitch black in Harbin. The power supply had long been cut off. Not good. The tour guide, Chen, saw a figure standing at the intersection ahead and waving at them. His expression changed. There's a situation ahead. Retreat to the intersection behind. The driver responded and drove the van back. He turned the van around and was ready to turn back at any time. What's wrong? The person in front ran back and said, There are a large number of exotic beasts and human corpses ahead. This road is completely ruined. If we still want to go to the immortal land mountain, we'll probably have to walk in. Moreover, it's too dangerous. There might be many exotic beasts lying in ambush around. Li Yan said, I don't care. You promised that you would bring me there. The tour guide, Chen, and his brother looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with difficulty. Boom! About a few miles ahead, there was a huge explosion. The entire ground shook. Looking over, a large number of exotic beasts were jumping on the roofs. They were densely packed and all of them rushed over. As far as the eye could see, there were at least 100 of them. Moreover, each of them was incomparably huge, comparable to an elephant. That was close. If we had gone there earlier, we would all have died. Li Yan said, You have to do things after receiving money. Now, quickly think of a way. The tour guide, Chen, looked at the sky. It was going to be dark soon. Once night fell, the car would be even more conspicuous on the road. Let's find a place to rest and wait for tomorrow. There's an abandoned shopping mall over there. Let's go in. I'll go pick up some firewood. There was a park not far away. They could pick up some trees and make a fire. Otherwise, people would freeze to death in the sub-zero temperature in Harbin. Zhang Xiu entered the shopping mall and took out his phone. He wanted to check the direction of the immortal land mountain. If it was close, it would be convenient for him to rush over. However, the phone's navigation system couldn't pinpoint the location and there was no map, so he could only give up. He then looked at the place where the explosion had occurred. The flames and the setting sun merged into a line. Coupled with the ruined buildings all over the ground, it was like the end of the world. Hey, don't you have food? Take it out. The woman's voice sounded. Chapter 329. Zhang Xiu didn't pay any attention to him. His gaze was fixated on something in the distance. That should be a missile. Judging from the current situation, it should be a large-scale attack by martial cultivators against exotic beasts. A missile like that would kill at least a few of them. He could even see martial cultivators fighting with exotic beasts in the streets. Seeing that Zhang Xiu ignored her, Li Yan said angrily, I'm talking to you. Are you deaf? Zhang Xiu turned around and looked at her coldly. In a place like this where resources were scarce, food was life. Even in the safety zone where resources were abundant, no one would use a commanding tone to ask for food like she did. Why should I give it to you? Li Yan was stunned. She didn't expect that Zhang Xiu would dare to refute her. Moreover, what he said was so reasonable. She suppressed the anger in her heart. Don't you just want money? I can buy it from you. How much? Is 1,000 enough? Jiang Xiu sneered. You can go out and look. If you're lucky, you can find a shop that's still open or a supermarket that's left behind. You, Li Yan said, don't forget that I asked you to follow me. Jiang Xiu said, I only know that I paid 100,000 yuan. Li Yan was so angry that her chest rose and fell violently, but she couldn't say anything. Jiang Xiu was a customer like her. She was just giving face to the tour guide, Chen, and it had nothing to do with Jiang Xiu. She turned to look at her bodyguards and asked, Did you bring food? A bodyguard said, We only brought water. In the center of Harbin, there was a restaurant that had been kept intact. It was owned by a strong man. There was plenty of food, water, and electricity. She had planned to stay there for a night and check out the situation inside. She would come back the next day, but now, it's just one night of hunger. What's the big deal? He took down some billboards in the mall. There was a lot of wood inside. He piled it up and made a fire. He found a pot and boiled water. Jiang Xiu even cooked instant noodles. Li Yan's bodyguard came over and said, Brother, sell some. The price is negotiable. Jiang Xiu shook his head. 10,000. 10,000 for a bowl of instant noodles. Jiang Xiu said, Do you think I'm someone who lacks that 10,000 yuan? 100,000. The bodyguard offered a fantastic price. The cost of Jiang Xiu's trip was covered by a bowl of instant noodles, but Jiang Xiu still shook his head. I won't sell it for any price. The bodyguard's face turned cold. Brother, don't be so shameless. This is the son of the Moonlight Financial Group on Treasure Island. He has close ties with many leaders and has close ties with many biological groups. Brother, don't make a mistake. Jiang Xiu couldn't be bothered with him and started to eat his noodles. You? Li Yan was so angry that she stood up and said, I think you're refusing a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. You don't want face, do you? Beat him for me. The tour guide Chen hurriedly ran over and said, Miss Li, why do you have to make a big deal out of it? If he doesn't want to sell, there's no reason for us to force him to sell. Li Yan said, I won't force him to sell. I'll just rob him. In a place where even killing someone wasn't punished, robbing something was nothing. In this place, the most primitive side of human beings was completely revealed. The tour guide Chen said, Miss Li, it's not safe here. If you really make a noise and attract the beasts, you'll have to bear the consequences. We won't risk our lives because of your actions. I said before that you have to listen to our arrangements once we're inside. Are you trying to scare me? A strange and somewhat familiar beast-like cry sounded. Li Yan's voice suddenly stopped. She heard the sound of jumping outside. These exotic beasts were very powerful. They could jump several meters with a single jump, and could jump directly from one abandoned building to another. Quick, put out the fire. Director Chen kicked the fire a few times and scattered it. The fire was extinguished, and the mall immediately darkened. This doesn't make sense. This is the outer area. The tour guide's expression changed drastically. It's revenge. Jiang Xiu's voice sounded faintly in the darkness. The missiles just now should have killed a lot of exotic beasts, so they're organizing for revenge. That makes sense. Tour guide Chan agreed with Jiang Xiu's words. Let's not talk about these useless things. What should we do now? Li Yan's voice was trembling. Her bodyguards surrounded her to protect her. The mall has already been surrounded, tour guide Chen and the others said with some hope. I hope the exotic beasts won't find us. The mall had a total of 7 floors, and the interior was very large. Those who had shopped in the mall before knew that it was easy for people who weren't familiar with the mall to get lost. Moreover, many parts of the mall had collapsed, making it even harder to find. Humans could still find the area according to the English words on the walls, but exotic beasts weren't easy to find. Then what if they find us? Tour guide Chen said. Then, Jiang Xiu shook his head gently and said, they've already found us. The exotic beasts in the surroundings were gathering around them. They should already know where they were. Don't be an alarmist here. I should have beaten you up just now, Li Yan said angrily. The exotic beasts approached very quickly. In the blink of an eye, the surroundings were filled with dots of green light, just like the eyes of wolves in the dark. Those were the eyes of exotic beasts. They could see in the dark like wolves. What is that? Li Yan's voice was trembling. It's an exotic beast. Zhang Xiu threw a lighter on the billboard. It lit up immediately, and the mall regained its light. Looking around, upstairs, downstairs, on the elevators, and even on the chandelier, there were dozens of exotic beasts densely packed together. Oh my God! Li Yan, the bodyguards, and the tour guides' faces were as pale as snow. It's over. Roar. One of them stepped closer. It was Zhang Xiu's first time seeing an exotic beast. It was tall and different from the exotic beasts in the Xianwu continent. It looked like a lion with scales, and its tail was fluttering in the wind. It's a general-level exotic beast. Its combat power is over 1,000, tour guide Chen asked. How many exactly? 3361. Hearing this, everyone present sucked in a breath. With a combat power of more than 1,000, they might have a chance if they worked together. But with more than 3,000, there was no hope at all. What should we do? Li Yan was so scared that her face was pale. Roar. The exotic beast roared crazily at them, and the other exotic beasts roared as well. They angrily rushed toward Zhang Xiu and the others. They wanted to avenge their dead companions. Zhang Xiu and the others screamed in horror when they saw the exotic beasts pouncing toward them. The tour guide, Chen De, shouted, "Are we going to fight it out with them?" He reached out and pulled out the long knife on his back. Li Yan's bodyguards raised their machine guns and fired. Bang, bang, bang. The exotic beast was killed in the air and fell to the ground. This aroused the ferocity of the other exotic beasts. Nangong Ko-e and a dozen other people were resting in a ruin not far from here. When they heard the gunshots in the distance, they all sat up in shock. One of the men, who was wearing a camouflage uniform, said, "It's gunshots. The strange beasts were killed today, and they must have organized a counterattack. Some unlucky guy was caught. It's from the mall across the street." Nangong Ko-e said, "Give me the binoculars." She quickly took the binoculars and went to the edge of the ruin. Through the binoculars, she could see the continuous gunfire in the mall. The number is amazing. I estimate that there are 50 or 60 exotic beasts. 50 or 60. There must be a general-level exotic beast. It's beyond our ability, a man behind her said. There's nothing we can do. Miss, should we stay here, or move? Move. Nangong Ko-e's words suddenly stopped, and her heart suddenly skipped a beat. She fixed her eyes on a young man who was surrounded by strange beasts. She couldn't believe her eyes, but when she took a closer look, she found that the young man was indeed her enemy. Why is he here? This be asterisk starred. Why did he come to Harbin alone? Does he want to die? Hurry up, go to the other side and save them. Her team members were stunned. Miss, there are too many exotic beasts there. Some of them are general-level exotic beasts. It's beyond our ability. Hurry up and save them. Nangong Ko-e jumped out of the building that was 3 stories high. Her body was as light as a swallow's, and she landed on the collapsed wall of the 2nd floor. Then, she used it as leverage to land steadily on the ground, and ran toward the shopping mall in the distance. Miss, hurry up, follow her. Her team members didn't know what to do. They had to protect Nangong Ko-e, so they had to jump down and catch up with Nangong Ko-e. Chapter 330. When the members of the Nangong family arrived, the gunshots had stopped. One of them said nervously, "Miss, even if we are going to save him, we still need to make some arrangements." Nangong Ko didn't stop, but rushed into the shopping mall. The members of the Nangong family were shocked. Miss Ko. After all, the strange beasts weren't human beings, so they didn't know how to set up a defense outside. Nangong Ko had already rushed into the shopping mall. The members of the Nangong family were helpless, and one of them shouted, "Gunmen, cover us! The rest of you, follow us!" The shopping mall was silent, and the fire was still burning. Except for a few corpses, there was no one left in the mall. The battle had already ended. Nangong Ko stopped and looked at the scene in surprise. Where are they? The shopping mall was only a few hundred meters away from the place where they had rested. With their speed, they should have arrived in less than a minute. How could the strange beasts and humans all disappear in such a short time? Did I see wrongly? There's no reason for that. The strange beast's blood was still flowing, and the bullet shells on the ground were still warm. No, I didn't see it wrong. The members of the Nangong family also arrived, and they were also surprised. Where are they? It's so strange. How could the strange beasts and humans all disappear in the blink of an eye? The man, who seemed to be the leader of the Nangong family, asked, "Miss Ko, did you meet someone you know just now?" The members of the Nangong family also looked at her in surprise. Nangong Ko shook her head with a strange expression. Her relationship with Zhang Xiu couldn't be exposed, and she was too nervous just now. However, at this moment, she was still very nervous, because she didn't know what was going on with Zhang Xiu. She walked to the side, where there was a backpack. She opened it and checked it. There was some food in the backpack, and the members of the Nangong family smiled when they saw it. Nangong Ko threw the food to them casually, and there were also some underwear in the backpack, which seemed to be the brand that Zhang Xiu liked to wear. "Okay, wallet." She took it out, and there were some bank cards in it. Black card. Seeing this, Nangong Ko heaved a sigh of relief. That guy was poor, so how could he have gotten a black card? Nangong Ko hurriedly took out his ID card, which was a picture of a timid young man. His name was Zhang Xiu, and his address was also in Jiang City. Zhang Xiu received his ID card when he was 16 years old. It had been more than 3 years since then, and he was in his adolescence. Moreover, he looked too similar to Zhang Xiu. "It's really him," Nangong Ko said. His appearance had changed so much, so could it be that he had undergone plastic surgery? The captain walked over and asked, "Miss Ko, do you know him?" Zhang Xiu, what a familiar name. Upon hearing this, Nangong Ko's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that they had heard about my relationship with Zhang Xiu? After all, I was engaged to him before. That shouldn't be the case, as only my family members know about this. "Zhang Luo is Zhang Xiu, isn't he?" A warrior at the side said. "No way, did we meet the most powerful man in Hua Nation here?" The captain couldn't believe it. There are at least 10,000 people named Zhang Xiu in Hua Nation. It's just a coincidence. Nangong Ko frowned and said, "His name is indeed Zhang Luoxia, but he has nothing to do with Mr. Zhang. He's just a student. Oh, he knows some spells. Let's look around. We must find him." Remembering that Zhang Xiu knew spells, she wondered if he had cast spells to avoid the strange beasts. Otherwise, such a strange situation wouldn't have happened. "Come and see, there are many dead bodies here." When they ran over, they saw the bodies of 3 or 4 strange beasts piled up in front of the elevator. What? This elevator still has electricity. He must have escaped. On another road, a group of people was running. Director Chan had been here for many years. He had arranged an escape route for the guests to rest in the mall. "No, I can't run anymore." Li Yan was so tired that she was panting. No matter how intelligent the strange beasts were, they wouldn't have thought that humans had such a magical thing as an elevator. "We can't stop. We have to go to the next stronghold. The strange beasts are counterattacking today," Tour Guide Chen said with a serious expression. Li Yan said, "No, I can't run anymore." "Let your bodyguard carry you. Hurry." The group of people walked on the dark streets. After running for a few more miles, the bodyguard said, "Why do I feel like we're still walking toward the center of Ha Nation? Aren't we going back?" Tour guide Chen said, "It's too dangerous outside. The second stronghold is in front. The strange beasts were counterattacking outside. It might be safer to go inside. Hurry up. When we reach the next stronghold, we have to take the time to rest." In the horizon ahead, a soaring arrow soared into the sky. Under the pitch-black night sky, the white light was exceptionally bright. With a boom, it reached its peak and exploded. Someone sent a signal. After cell phones couldn't be used, primitive methods came in handy. "It's in the direction of Immortal Land Mountain." Before he could finish his sentence, a missile glided across the sky, aiming in the direction of the signal. Then, there was a loud boom, and the entire ground shook. Flames soared into the sky, and the heat could be felt from afar. This signal was the target's location. Someone had sacrificed themselves to make an accurate location for the government forces. They started attacking during the day, and the strange beasts counterattacked. They carried out another attack at night. Zhang Xiu muttered, "Something must have happened inside." A thin man who had gone to open the path ahead turned back and said, "Something big happened ahead. A large number of powerful people from biological groups and mercenaries are rushing to Immortal Land Mountain." The man panted and said, "I heard that a treasure of the gods is about to appear." A bright bolt of lightning flashed across the sky. A huge black vortex could be vaguely seen. The lightning slowly faded into it. A natural phenomenon. The employer, Li Yan, who was lying on top of the bodyguard, said, "Quick, let's go. If we're lucky, it might land on me." Things of the gods are obtained by those who are fated. It's a great fate that I'm here today. She imagined that after she got the treasure, she would return to Taiwan and be proud in front of her family. She would become the most important member of her family in one fell swoop. Quick, quick. The tour guide Chan and his brothers exchanged glances. They saw a strong desire in each other's eyes. In the face of such a huge temptation, they were all tempted. "Let's go. Immortal Land Mountain is the safest place now. It's full of humans. The strange beasts can't do anything." "Isn't your goal there?" After making up their minds, the group rushed to Immortal Land Mountain. Their judgment was right. A large number of people were rushing to Immortal Land Mountain. It felt like a general attack by humans. Along the way, there were cars roaring. They even saw tanks. So many powerful people from biological groups. Pantheon Biological Group, Skyline Biological Group, Hongmeng Biological Group. All the major biological groups had summoned their people. All the mercenaries and government troops had also arrived. It was a gathering of people from all over the world. "Damn it, we can finally fight the strange beasts." "The Tiger of Liaodong," someone shouted. As far as the eye could see, a man stood on a building more than 20 meters tall. He stood with his hands behind his back. His clothes fluttered in the wind as he looked around. Xiao Yuanzhan? At this moment, the vortex in the sky was even more obvious. Lightning kept flashing inside it, as if it was going to rush out of it. Roar! A huge beast let out a deafening roar on the peak of the mountain. The roar spread out and could be heard everywhere in Harbin. Beast King! Seeing the Beast King that was as huge as a rock in the dark, the humans who had rushed over felt a sense of guilt and helplessness. What a terrifying roar! Nangong Ko-er and the others, who were still searching near the shopping mall, were shocked when they heard the roar. They had heard this roar once before. It was the roar of the Beast King. Every time the Beast King roared, something big must have happened. The battle between humans and strange beasts would become extremely fierce. The Beast King should be calling back the strange beasts that were scattered. Nangong Ko-er shook her head and said, "No, we've fallen into a trap. The outermost area is full of strange beasts, and Immortal Land Mountain is also full of strange beasts. We've been surrounded by them. Are they going to attack us from both inside and outside? Quick, let's go to Immortal Land Mountain too. I don't think they're calling back the strange beasts, but clearing them along the way. Chapter 331. As they approached the Immortal Land Mountain, they saw armament cultivators and mercenaries everywhere. This gave Zhang Xiu and the others a sense of security. Many places were on fire, so visibility was high. The main reason was that there were many government troops here. With someone to uphold justice, they felt more at ease. They found an empty space to rest while paying attention to the situation. Tour guide Chen and the others looked nervous and serious. This was a matter of life and death. However, it was rare to have such an opportunity. People were greedy. Zhang Xiu said, "Is there a map of the mountain?" He was worried that there was a formation left behind on the mountain. It would be best if there was a 3D map so he could judge whether it existed or not. Tour guide Chen said, "There isn't. This mountain is very strange. The surroundings are always dark. It's also dark during the day. The photos taken are very blurry." Zhang Xiu's heart skipped a beat. He had read an article before. Traveling to the North Pole, the Mirror Volcano, where the sun and moon do not shine, there is a dragon fire. The Mirror Volcano? The situation was very similar. There should be dragon fire here. Dragon fire was not on the same level as earth fire. It was above the mortal world and could burn everything. There was nothing in this world that it could not burn. If one could obtain it, it would be like the US having nuclear weapons during World War II. The world had really changed. Such a heaven-defying thing actually appeared here. No wonder the heavens would send down divine punishment. Tour guide Chen said, "I came here before the year. At that time, the mountain shone. Many people thought that it was a miracle. At that time, they took aerial photos. Most of the area was shrouded in thick fog. They could only see deer running inside. It was very mysterious. At that time, we guessed that there was an immortal in the mountain, but now it seems that there isn't. If there was an immortal, how could it be occupied by the Beast King?" Zhang Xiu sneered in his heart. Of course there was no immortal. If there was an immortal, the divine punishment would not have attacked the mountain but the immortal. However, the thick fog must have covered the heaven-defying things in the mountain. He guessed that there were many spiritual herbs and spiritual fruits. The major biological groups sent people into Ha City not just for leveling up. They probably wanted to split the spiritual herbs and spiritual fruits on the mountain. Anyone who knew would want to share. It was the same for the government army. In the past, the leftists of the Hua nation definitely wouldn't allow others to interfere. However, the situation was different now, and social unrest was already foreseeable. If the government's military was still so aggressive, it would definitely incite public resentment. That was why the major biological corporations and mercenaries were allowed to enter. It's starting. The people who were originally lying paralyzed on the ground and resting suddenly stood up and looked at the immortal mountain in the distance. The slightly decent mountain path had long been dyed red with blood. There was blood from both humans and strange beasts. Killing happened here every day. The government forces had used missiles to bombard the mountain many times, but it seemed that the structure of the mountain was different from other mountains. It was terrifyingly hard, and even cannons could not destroy it. This made the government army feel powerless. Unless they used nuclear weapons, but under international pressure, no one would dare to use nuclear weapons, not to mention attacking a place within their own territory. Therefore, they could only rely on the so-called underground forces. That day, the big boss came to Zhang Xiu's house and asked him to take an important position in the military and spread his martial arts. This was a big incentive. This was also within Zhang Xiu's expectations. The existence that had experienced divine punishment was actually not something that could be shaken by ordinary cannonballs. He even suspected that nuclear weapons that could destroy the earth might not be able to move this mountain. "Xie Ting, what you hoped for has finally happened." The saintess would rather burn herself to death than let the world she lived in descend. This showed how deep the hatred in her heart was. Boom! In the distance, a series of missiles with long flaming tails fell towards the mountain. One after another, the flames from the missiles formed a beautiful parabola in the sky. It was very beautiful. Boom, 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 Li Yan said excitedly. The government forces in the mainland are starting to bombard the mountain. They're really rich. I heard that the cost of each missile is more than 100 million. 1, 2, 3, 700 million. If this was our treasure island, who knows how much pressure the commander would have to face. His words were considered polite, but his face was full of disdain. The Taiwanese always had a deep prejudice against the Chinese. They always felt that they were awesome, but if you were poor, you would be rich, and if you were rich, you would be a foolish tycoon. Although bombing the mountain was one way to occupy it, it was also a waste of money. If this goes on, the treasures inside will also be destroyed after the beasts are killed, right? Li Yan's tone was as if the treasures were already hers. Zhang Xiu said, "They won't. The place where the fog was thick should be where the aura emitted by the spiritual fruits and spiritual herbs were condensed. The heat and destructive power of the missiles would be completely blocked." "What do you know?" Li Yan was very disdainful of Zhang Xiu. "You're only a 2-digit piece of trash." Hee, tour guide Chen interrupted. "Brother Jiang, you're still young. I feel that you have a lot of potential. When we were surrounded by the exotic beasts, even those of us who had prepared an escape route in advance were so scared that we were trembling all over. You, on the other hand, were calm and composed. It's this ability to remain calm that will give you the upper hand when facing the enemy." Zhang Xiu didn't think much of it. For more than 3,000 years, fighting was the main joy of his life. No matter how calm you are, it's useless if you don't have the strength. Li Yan shook her head. The first round of bombing had already ended. Although it was quite far away, the tremors of the earth and the smell of smoke in the air made people feel as if they were already on the battlefield. The tour guide Chen said, "In addition to the beasts, not long ago, someone said that they saw a huge white snake that could ride the clouds and mist. It disappeared into the mountains." Zhang Xiu's eyes flashed when he heard this. He immediately thought of the snake demon god in Hangzhou. She had extremely high intelligence. Since she could escape under Zhang Xiu's nose with the help of the celebrities in the manor, she should be very familiar with human society. Not only were there treasures in the Spirit Mountain, but it was also an excellent place for her to recuperate. There's a way to heaven, but you don't take it. There's no door to hell, but you break into it. The corner of spiritual cultivation's mouth raised. Last time, the snake demon god escaped, which he regarded as a great shame. This time, he must move back. Boom, 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 boom. There was a roar in the sky. Everyone looked up and saw 3 fighter jets flying from the sky. The ground bombing was enough. With the current level of technology, missiles could hit anywhere in the mountains. Fighter jets couldn't be sent out. Now that they were sent out, they shouldn't be used for fighting, but mainly for reconnaissance. It seemed that they were really going to launch a general attack. Roar! The Beast King roared angrily when he saw the fighter jets. He would never allow humans to set foot on the territory that he had occupied. With this roar, the beasts outside seemed to have received some kind of signal. They sped up the cleanup operation outside and quickly shrank from the border of Harbin to the Spirit Mountain. The Beast King moved. It was like a small mountain. When it ran, it stepped on the air and suddenly jumped up. In an instant, it was more than 100 meters high. The form of the Beast King was completely revealed in the sky. Its front claws slapped at the fighter jets. The claws of its forelimbs were half the size of the fighter jets. Boom! The fighter jets were smashed into pieces as if they were made of mud. The pilots didn't even have time to parachute. Boom! 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 2 more shots were fired and the other 2 fighter jets were shot down. Before they could get close to the Spirit Mountain and send the data of the missile attack back to the headquarters, they were sacrificed heroically. The onlookers below were all shocked. It's too powerful. Can humans still deal with it? When the leaders of the control department of the government army saw this scene, they were so shocked that their eyes almost popped out. My God, what kind of monster is this? It's so powerful. At this time, a person came to everyone's mind. The tiger of Liaodong, Xiao Yuanzhan. At this moment, he was standing on the roof of an abandoned high-rise building far away. Before this, the Beast King of the first beast tide in Liaodong was defeated by him. Now, it was time for him to make a move again. The crowd below looked up. Let's do it. The disciples behind Xiao Yuanzhan were also very excited. They were waiting for their master to make a move. This time, not only did they want to defeat the Beast King, but they also wanted to kill it completely. Now it was time for the final battle. Chapter 332. Looking at the Beast King in the air, Xiao Yuanzhan's expression turned serious. This Beast King's life level should have evolved once compared to the last time. It would be even more difficult to destroy it. The fragments of the exploded fighter jet fell down with sparks. It was a mess. The Beast King also landed heavily. It looked over and roared. Its voice was like thunder, coming down from the celestial mountain. I will descend upon the tribe here. Those who dare to violate the rules will be killed without mercy. Oh my God! The Beast King spoke in human language. It was shocking. Everyone present was stunned and at a loss for what to do. The Beast King spoke. Li Yan, tour guide Chen, and the others all opened their mouths. Their eyes were filled with fear. It was already shocking enough that it spoke. What it said made everyone present feel a chill down their spines. It wanted to occupy this place. Was it trying to compete with the humans? It was too unbelievable. After the shock, the military chief slammed the table. Bastard, a mere beast wants to occupy this place. Tell Xiao Yuanzhan that he must kill this Beast King. Yes. The chief's skirt trembled. We must kill it at all costs. If we don't start well, everyone will follow suit. It will be a disaster for the country. The consequences will be unimaginable. A voice came from the walkie-talkie of the person behind Xiao Yuanzhan. After the conversation, he replied, Master, the order has been given. We must kill this Beast King. Xiao Yuanzhan also knew the current situation. If the Beast King was not killed, there would be no chance in the future. Its evolution speed was much faster than that of humans. There was an official data that was not released. After the beast tide, more than 7 million people were killed or injured. When the data was released, the entire government was shocked. The people on Diaoyu platform felt their hair stand on end. The meeting room exploded on the spot. But they had to suppress the data and announce a small part of the data to the public. They also blamed everything on the earthquake. Now, they wanted to claim the land as the Beast King. Kill! Xiao Yuanzhan roared. The eyes of the martial cultivators below were already red. The crowd was agitated. This was a war between races. Everyone was angry and started attacking the celestial mountain. Bastard, you're talking about me. Xiao Yuanzhan roared and suddenly kicked away a collapsed wall beside his feet. At the same time, he squatted slightly and shot out like an arrow. Stepping on the broken wall, he once again soared into the air and rushed towards the Beast King at the top of the mountain. Master is mighty. Grandmaster Xiao has made his move. The Almighty's appearance and aura really made people excited. Countless pairs of eyes stared at him and cheered for him. In the command center, the bureau chief had tears in his eyes when he saw this. We humans and Cathay also have heaven-suppressing geniuses. It's Xiao Yuanzhan. Nangong Ko-Er's team's judgment was undoubtedly correct. They didn't encounter any obstacles on their way to the Immortal Mountain, and they smoothly arrived in the vicinity. They used their binoculars to see Xiao Yuanzhan flying to the top of the mountain, and asked Gu Shen to kill the Beast King. We must kill that beast. The team leader next to Nangong Ko gnashed his teeth in anger, and he hoped that Xiao Yuanzhan would be able to kill the Beast King. Many of their Nangong family's disciples had been killed, and his younger brother had been killed by the Beast King. The Beast King disappeared. Suddenly, someone shouted and put down the binoculars. When he realized that he couldn't see the Beast King with the binoculars, he hurriedly raised the binoculars again, but the Beast King was nowhere to be seen. At this time, in the military command center, the image of the Beast King on the screen was extremely blurry. The bureau chief angrily said, "How could this be? Is the signal being disrupted?" No. The Beast King is too fast." The Beast King's speed exceeded the speed of sound, and even the video became blurry. It was so fast that it even disappeared on the screen. They fought. They couldn't see clearly, but they could see that Xiao Yuanzhan's body was emitting a strong aura, which swept the surrounding trees. A white mane that resembled a tiger's hair grew on the left side of his face. This was the evolved form of a demigod. Boom! 2 figures fell into the dense forest below. The people below couldn't see them clearly, and only the satellites could barely lock onto them. They could see 2 figures running in the dense forest, intertwining with each other, and they would separate after a short while. Wherever they passed, the huge trees were easily knocked down as if they were made of tofu, and smoke and dust flew everywhere. Boom! A ray of light flew out from the mountain, and was thrown towards the waist of the Beast King. This time, everyone saw it again. However, what they saw through their binoculars was not what they wanted to see. Xiao Yuanzhan's body was firmly pressed down by the Beast King's forelimbs. The clothes on his body had been completely torn apart, revealing his muscles. There were gray marks on his muscles, and they seemed to be emitting light, giving him extraordinary physical strength. Pang! His body crashed heavily onto the ground. If it was someone with such a high height and such a high speed, they would have been smashed into a pile of mud. However, he only spat out a mouthful of blood, and suddenly bounced back. The Beast King's forelimbs landed heavily on the ground, and the entire ground shook. It immediately chased after Xiao Yuanzhan. The Beast King's speed was really too fast, and it broke through the sound barrier, letting out a terrifying roar. Seeing it rush through the sky, its body was flowing with a white luster, and it was like a sharp blade. The surrounding trees were immediately cut into pieces. This kind of terrifying destructive power could not help but make people tremble in fear. The martial artists below had already started to attack the mountain, and some of them were extremely powerful. They had to deal with more ordinary beasts, but when they encountered general-level beasts, their skin was so thick that even bullets couldn't penetrate it. The situation isn't good. Nangong Ko was able to follow Xiao Yuanzhan's fight with the Beast King with her superhuman senses. Xiao Yuanzhan couldn't fight back at all, as his strength was far inferior to his opponent's, and his speed was also crushed. The only thing he could rely on was his fighting skills and intelligence. However, the Beast King's intelligence was not lower than that of a human's. If the Beast King can't be killed, we will definitely lose this battle. If such an invincible existence was free to fight, it would be a nightmare for everyone present, and it would be a complete massacre. The military chief on the command platform saw the situation more clearly than Nangong Ko and the others, and many staff officers also frowned, as they had a premonition that they were in big trouble. Compared to before, this Beast King seemed to have evolved, and it was much more powerful than before. I shouldn't have let this beast go last time. Although Xiao Yuanzhan had a slight advantage at that time, there were so many beasts around, and it could be said that he was very lucky to be able to force the Beast King to retreat. It was almost impossible for him to kill the Beast King. It could only be said that Xiao Yuanzhan might have had a chance to win in a one-on-one fight, but it was only a win. In a real life and death battle, the Beast King's endurance and survivability were much stronger than Xiao Yuanzhan's, and this was determined by its genes. Roar! The Beast King roared, and the beast's aura surged. Xiao Yuanzhan, an old opponent, was crushed, and he chased after Xiao Yuanzhan all the way. At this moment, Xiao Yuanzhan's body was covered with wounds and scratches, and his chest was even lacerated, and even his bones could be seen. He was gasping for breath, and if this continued, he would definitely lose. Everyone who saw this scene felt a chill run down their spines. Was the alien race rising? They were so powerful that even Xiao Yuanzhan was no match for them. These beasts were incomparably cruel, and they had evolved in such a short time. If they were allowed to evolve again, how could Hua Nation, and even the entire human race, resist them? What was the future of humanity? Nangong Koer's expression was incomparably serious, and she immediately said, "Did you all see that person's ID card?" Everyone in the team nodded. "Good, let's immediately split up and look for him." 10 minutes, if we can't find him after 10 minutes, then we'll give up and immediately return here. We'll prepare to retreat. In the current situation, they could only leave this place and leave Ha City. If they stayed here, there would only be one result, and that was to be buried together with those martial cultivators and mercenaries who bravely defended the dignity of humanity. Yes. After the team heard this, they immediately scattered in all directions. According to their experience, Jiang Xiu wouldn't be very close to the mountain, and would definitely be in the periphery. At this time, those who dared to rush close to the mountain were all powerhouses, and Jiang Xiu was obviously not one of them. Can the powerhouses of this continent win? Li Yan asked. Xiao Yuanzhan won once, and if he can win once, he can win again. The tour guide Chen was full of confidence. Chapter 333. However, Jiang Xiu shook his head and said, "It's obvious that Xiao Yuanzhan is going to lose. Moreover, his abilities are one level lower than his opponents. His chances of winning are very low to begin with. You guys have earned quite a lot of money here. Leave now. Don't throw your lives away." Tour guide Chen earned a lot of money, but he was quite responsible and reliable. There were too many people in society who did things half-heartedly. He had set up a stronghold and built an escape route. Jiang Xiu had a good impression of him and thus advised him against it. Treasures of the world did exist here, but they wouldn't be obtained by fate like in myths and legends. Instead, they would be obtained by experts. This was the conclusion he came to after fighting for treasures for over 3,000 years. However, before tour guide Chen could say anything, Li Yan spoke up, "I can't even see clearly with binoculars." "You don't even have binoculars. How can you see clearly? You're spouting nonsense here. I think you're just trying to scare us away so that we won't fight with you for the celestial treasure. You're dreaming." Jiang Xiu was speechless. "You people from the mainland are really scheming," tour guide Chen said in a low voice. "Let's wait for a while. Half of our brothers have died after leaving our hometown. No matter how much money we have, we won't have enough to split. Let's see if there's a chance." Not far away, a human figure was moving through the abandoned loft. It was very safe here. The mutated beasts were either on the mountain or in the periphery. Moreover, there was a huge difference between humans and mutated beasts. It was easy to recognize them and there was no fear. The battle on the mountain became even more intense. Xiao Yuanzhan retaliated, unleashing the last of his strength. His eyes turned red, emitting a fierce red light, and a tiger's roar came from his throat. There was a saying in the underground of Liaodong that Xiao Yuanzhan was actually a mixed blood, a mix of Chinese and Russian. However, there were also people who said that Xiao Yuanzhan was actually a tiger. It was said that he was brought out from the snow by a Siberian tiger. There were many different opinions, but in short, his background was mysterious. Later on, he followed Bearded Man during the chaotic era and quickly made a name for himself. He was a well-known underground expert in Liaodong. Later on, he was engrossed in martial arts cultivation and rarely came out. However, his influence remained in Liaodong, and he was involved in overseas smuggling and arms businesses. Roar, roar. This roar was like a tiger's roar in the forest. He retaliated fiercely. "Die, you bastard!" The surface of the muscles all over his body had already been dyed red with blood, making him look exceptionally ferocious and terrifying. He directly rushed over, the light in his eyes bursting out. Wherever he passed, the surrounding trees were all blown askew. Ignorant humans. Roar. The Beast King also let out a terrifying roar. His speed was even faster than Xiao Yuanzhan's, and his body was even larger. Boom! The two forces hadn't really collided yet, but the two streams of air had already collided. The intense friction caused a bright light to erupt, and the sound of the explosion was even more ear-piercing than that of a cannonball. Oh my God! When the armament school saw this scene, they were indescribably shocked. Was this still a battle between humans and beasts? It was comparable to a battle between gods. Boom! A human figure was thrown out from the strong light. Judging from the figure, it was Xiao Yuanzhan. The huge Beast King behind him had already charged over. Not good. In the command room, the military chief's expression changed greatly. Although the satellite video wasn't very clear, he could roughly see that Xiao Yuanzhan was at a disadvantage in a head-on clash. The strength displayed by the Beast King had already exceeded his imagination. Chief, this isn't good. The staff officer at the side was pale. Yes, Chief, we can't place all our bets on Xiao Yuanzhan. Another staff officer at the side also agreed. Once Xiao Yuanzhan is defeated, with the nature of this Beast King, he will definitely massacre everyone present and take revenge on us humans. When that time comes, let alone City Ha, the surrounding cities, even the entire Liaodong, he didn't dare to continue. The consequences were too terrifying. The chief said, "Then what do you think we should do?" Right now, they could only place their hopes on Xiao Yuanzhan. There was no other way. If even Xiao Yuanzhan can't win, who else can? The staff officer said, "I once heard Master Xiao say that he highly admires someone. He said that even 2 Xiao Yuanzhans might not be a match for this person." The chief's eyes lit up. Who? The staff officer said, "Jiang Luoxia from Zhongnan. This person is known as the strongest person in China." The strongest person in China? The old chief's hair was already white. He didn't know much about the underground. To be precise, he didn't care about it and even felt disgusted. However, after Xiao Yuanzhan defeated the Beast Tide, his view of the underground changed greatly. Then what are we waiting for? Why don't we ask him to come and save us? The staff officer said, "Jiang Luoxia is known as the strongest person in China. His status is extremely respected. It's not that easy to invite him. However, I heard from a classmate in the capital that Dio Yu Tai wants to invite him to take up an important position in the military. I'm afraid that we have to send an invitation to him through the military headquarters." "Why didn't you say so earlier?" The chief immediately contacted the military headquarters. In fact, many people in the military headquarters were also paying attention to the situation here. After receiving the request, the military headquarters immediately contacted Wang Xintong. It was already midnight. There was a war in City Ha, but Zhongnan was still peaceful. Moreover, it was still the Chinese New Year period. Everyone was still immersed in the festive atmosphere. Wang Xintong hadn't gone to bed yet. She was chatting with Wang Shuashang and other family members. When she received the call, Wang Xintong was a little confused because she couldn't reach Jiang Xiu. "President Wang, the situation in City Ha has reached a critical point. You must find Mr. Jiang." Wang Xintong also anxiously paced back and forth in the room. "I can't reach him either. He often disappears. Mr. Jiang really went missing at the wrong time. Think of a way." "Okay." Wang Xintong immediately called the airline and checked the plane records. The plane turned out to be at Liaodong Airport. Why did he go to Liaodong? Did he go to City Ha? It doesn't make sense. If he went to City Ha, why didn't he tell me? Wang Shuatong asked, "What's the matter?" Wang Xintong called the police system and asked the people there to find Jiang Xiu through the phone, but the result was that his phone was turned off. There was no way to find him. The situation in City Ha is serious. It's out of control. The General Military Region wants Mr. Jiang to go out. It's urgent. Mr. Jiang doesn't want to go. Wang Xintong said anxiously, "It's because I can't find him now." The news that Jiang Xiu had returned to Jiang City had spread all over the upper-class circle of Jiang City. Many people tiptoed and were ready to pay a visit to him. How could he suddenly disappear? Her daughter was Jiang Xiu's spokesperson. If she couldn't find him, others couldn't find him either. The first call from the General Military Region came. President Wang, have you found Mr. Jiang? Wang Xintong said with great hesitation, I'm sorry. I didn't find him, but he should be in Liaodong. Now the plane is at Liaodong Airport. He may have gone to City Ha. Are you sure? Wang Xintong wasn't sure. She didn't dare to say such a big thing. I'm just guessing. It's also possible that he went to Liaodong for other things. There were 3 provinces in Liaodong. It was such a big place. Who knew where Jiang Xiu would go? I'm sorry. In the command room of Liaodong, news came from the headquarters. They couldn't find Jiang Luoxia. They could only rely on themselves. Chief, how is it? The chief shook his head. I can't find him. These people are all so powerful. They're even the most powerful people in China. When it's time to use them, they hide like cowards. There was silence in the command room. The last chance was gone. Then what should we do? Do we just watch as the Beast King kills Xiao Yuanzhan and slaughters all the humans? A middle-aged staff officer with glasses said, There's only one way now. Nuclear weapons. What? The chief glared. His glasses almost fell out. Do you know what you're saying? There are so many people here. Do you want them all to be buried with you? Also, the land of City Ha is uninhabitable after the nuclear bomb. The staff officer said, I know. But Chief, there's no other way. Xiao Yuanzhan is about to be defeated. The massacre is imminent. Do we have to wait for the Beast King to kill everyone and bring the mutated beasts to attack our city and turn the surrounding cities into City Ha before we regret it? The chief's eyes were still staring, but his expression was slowly softening. If possible, no one was willing to use nuclear weapons. He blinked and was silent for a long time. I'll contact the headquarters. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.